Nifty from Burns, a spin for DJ. His footwork's incredible.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Pretty three. Rebound picked up by Newton. 16 straight misses. Carabin inside. The dunk, the foul. Count it. And he hung on the rim for safety.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edey with 5 on the shot clock. Edey inside. Oh, what a move by Edey. That's what you call a great up and under.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Under 2 minutes to go. Sears guarded by Hunter. Sears lets it fly and knocks it down. Mark Sears.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Nice and easy. Burns gets rocked. Burns, another for DJ Burns. You're not going to play horse with him, I'll tell you that.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Rylan Griffin in traffic. Oh, nice pass. Finds Sears. Excellent ball movement there.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Tuesday, April the 2nd. Hopefully yesterday you got through unscathed when it comes to April the 1st. It's always, especially with social media, you just never know, but it might have been somewhere at the office or wherever you might work. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak, Garrett Ross, and Jack McKenzie are here running the mothership, and we do welcome you this afternoon. We will get quite a bit to what happened in the women's Elite Eight with the Iowa-LSU game, awaiting what those ratings might be, which are going to be huge. Also, we have ratings from the men's Elite Eight. We'll have that, much more. Thoughts about Angel Reese in her postgame, and so much more. But first of all, Arizona President Bobby Robbins is out. We'll have Jason Scheer join us today in about an hour or so. He wrote an email, executive office of the president, to the students and colleagues that he's on his way out. He was going to stay there for a little bit, but he feels like it is time to move on. And when I sent that out to a couple of people in the Big 12, they were like, wow. They kind of expected he could leave before the end line, but at the same time, they weren't expecting it today. And so Bobby Robbins, one of the presidents who was a part of the Big 12 in the adding of those 4 schools, he is out at Arizona.
Yeah, not a surprise given their debt situation. And, AD already replaced. But then you go up the line and say, like, yeah, the AD needs to go, but also, who's in charge of all the money? Technically, it would be the guy who's in charge of the whole university. So I'm not surprised to see this happen given the debt situation that they're in, especially given the immediate aftermath of it, where it was like it could be as much as this many $100 million, or it could be this. So they didn't even know what the debt was. That's just not a situation it appeared that they had as a university their handle on. So whether he's the right guy or wrong guy to go through it, we won't know now, because it just kind of felt like that was coming, because when you make those kind of changes and you have those kind of problems, maybe you just need a fresh set of eyes. Well,
he was going to serve his term. He will do that, but if they find somebody prior to that, then he will step down immediately to let the transition take over.
Robert Robbins was a guy that I didn't know much about until, this last year or so, and obviously all the Pac-12 realignment talk. He became a pretty prominent figure, was one of the more outspoken people, was definitely pro-Pac, as all those schools, maybe except for Colorado, were for the most part, and was hoping that they were going to be able to get a deal together. And he had the whole line about selling Girl Scout cookies when it came to the Apple TV deal and what that was going to look like in terms of selling subs and how they could benefit from that. And that was, where you might remember him as well during that whole process. But there's obviously a lot going on with the financial situation, with just the changes with the school in general, moving to a different conference, the new landscape that we're in, or I guess the changing landscape that we're in now. And so seems like if there's a time to do it, everybody's kind of exiting stage left. He can go ahead and do that as well, and they can start with what feels like it's going to be almost a brand new slate or a completely clean slate in terms of leadership over on the Arizona campus. So, that's an interesting note, and Arizona's got some problems to sort through, but I'm excited to see what they can do in a new-look Big 12 starting here in just, really, guys, like 2.5 months, because, if you count the summertime for preparations for next season, it's already start of April, so say 2.5 months, we're about in that time we're going to start looking towards football season, so they'll be here before you know it. He just seemingly won't be much, if at all, a part of it, and curious to see what direction the Wildcats decide to go.
All right, so we had Brett Yormark on the show last Thursday at the Pro Day up in Frisco, and he mentioned when we asked him about the possibility of anything that he has on the agenda that we don't know about, he might have said it, but he was saying right now we just need to make sure we get through the transition and that we kind of get everything right, even though there are going to be new ideas. One of the stories that the Big 12 was going to do next year was they were going to have the game in Mexico, but they've now moved that back. The Big 12 Mexico game, an event, the new target date will be 2025. Date will be 2025, continuing its brand in Mexico. But this was something that was new. It was unique. It's also a way of trying to find more scratch, more money. And so maybe there's just so much going on. They said, okay, let's not just run into this. We've got a lot on our plate. We'll take care of this next year.
Well, when looking back at when he said that to us, about not adding any more new ideas, it kind of feels now he was telling us that we're gonna slow some things down a little bit because of all the things that have happened. Like now it's like that was him telling us that something like this was probably going to happen, and then here we are less than a week later, and they've already pushed back Big 12 Mexico, which is good, especially if you look at the way that they did Pro Day. Because Pro Day was more about the functionality of it than the spectacle, which was a good way to start it out. Like, figure out the functionality of this thing and then start adding in the other elements that you can bring into it. So I think if you take that same approach with Big 12 Mexico, when you go to Mexico, you can't just have kind of a let's throw a basketball game out there or a football game, like whatever you're going to do. Let's throw a game out there just to have a game. You need to have everything in a row where you have the spectacle, you have the fun, because you are doing an international event. So yeah, instead of doing it just the functionality of it, do it, both barrels, and you'll have that going on. So I'm not surprised that happened.
I think the best part about this, and the part that bothered me the most about it, was that you had a Houston-Kansas basketball game you were going to put down there. That's far better served to be played in the city of Houston or in Lawrence, Kansas, with those two teams. That's not a game you give away.
Or anywhere in the country,
yeah,
right?
Put them in Chicago, put them in Brooklyn, put them in Miami, wherever you want to. But, I don't like, or never did like the idea of that being in Mexico. But this is one of those things where last summer so much was flying fast and furious. I know part of some of the ideas were probably to make the conference appear more appealing, or to just be thinking outside of the box, trying to think of different revenue streams. This was one of those that just sort of accepted. It was like, okay, I could kind of see where you're going here. It never made sense from the standpoint that you were going to be able to grow at a rapid rate. They would probably do enough in the short term to really benefit them all that much. Unlike some of the other ideas, like I get the working out in Rucker Park. Like that makes a ton of sense. That's a cool PR type of a thing. I don't know how much of a PR win you get playing the basketball game down in Mexico, but I was at least open-minded about it. I never did like the idea of the Houston-Kansas men's matchup, because that's just such a main event type of a game. It feels like it's better served closer to home. But this wasn't something I was crazy about. I think I was pretty much on board with just about trying whatever you thought would make some sense, or whatever seemed like it would, create some excitement. But, the more that I thought about this, I wasn't excited about it. It became one of those like, all right, that's cool, and that we'll see how that goes. But I'm actually better with them putting this off, if not putting it off forever, honestly. I don't know that it makes enough of a difference in the short term to really take up space or warrant space at the top of the to-do list right now. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to back off, reapproach this maybe at a later date. And what that looks like, or what matchup, or what sport even that would be, I don't know. But I'm totally fine with them kicking the can down the road and worrying about some other things before they start worrying about trying to establish a potential base or pull down in Mexico.
We'll skip the cornerbacks. No, we'll do that at another segment, Garrett, because and Craig's going to be leaving a couple of different times today. Once, like around 3:45 or so for Baylor practice, and then again after the show for some media session audio availability. Here are the numbers from the NCAA Men's Elite Eight. This would be normally, Craig, you would do this during Off the Radar.
Yeah. I wanted to mention, though, the whole Big 12 Mexico thing. That includes the football game as well, right?
Yeah, there was a football
all of
game.
It's off. And I agree with that. I don't like the idea of a football game unless it's an exhibition, because I think those games are too valuable. You're taking away a home game from somebody. So with the benefit of hindsight,
it might have been a bowl game too, which
I don't need. Yeah. I mean, whatever the details are going to be, I'm all for this postponement. And yeah, we'll see how they revisit that later on.
The ratings from CBS Sports and TNT, the most watched Elite Eight in 5 years. The last time I think the numbers were this high, there was a guy named Zion Williamson who was playing for Duke. Most watched telecast on Easter on any network in 11 years. You see the numbers peaking at just under 19 million. The Duke game with NC State, which have so much, Duke is, in college basketball terms, there's like 3 or 4 teams that have kind of like that Yankees and Cowboys type vibe. They're going to bring people who watch them because they love them. They have a lot of T-shirt fans, and they also have people that hate them. And then, of course, you have the NC State Cinderella story with DJ Burns and his basketball team. But those are the numbers, huge numbers. Waiting to hear about what Iowa and LSU last night in women's basketball in Albany, New York, what they pulled. We'll have that when we get it.
Well, it's been a crazy few years for Duke basketball fan, because the Cowboys had that run in the 90s, and then boom, here come the Patriots, your other favorite team, and then now like your Chiefs are winning all these Super Bowl titles. So it's been great for the Duke basketball fan out there in the NFL, who also loves
Lakers.
The Lakers that then the
Warriors.
Celtics. They're the
When
Warriors
was the last
fan.
time the Yankees won a World Series, Paul?
It's been a while.
2009.
Yeah, it's been over 14 or 15 years, yeah.
But I think that's a great number for college hoops, and for the ACC in particular, to have a Duke-NC State matchup. Granted, there's the backdrop of the tournament, obviously bringing in a much larger interest level. But, those are healthy numbers. NC State's been the Cinderella, although they're not a smaller brand, but they've had the hearts of a lot of casual fans, or just fans who don't have a dog in the fight, that are rooting for somebody, or wanting somebody to root for. They certainly apply there. And so, Duke's going to bring the typical Lakers, now Chiefs, Patriots, Cowboys, whatever audience. And also they're built in that they've had for a long time. But that's a great number for them, and good news, I guess, for college basketball. And, the ACC, man, that's one of those things where they're on a good little run right now in terms of the basketball and the way it's shined up that league, and it's just going to be fascinating moving forward of, how that matters. Like, 'cause I've seen, obviously NC State's one of those bandied about of where could they go? Will they be attached? And I don't know. It certainly seems like they would be more Big 12 material, or stick around in the whatever the ACC looks like, and try to do kind of what Oregon State, Washington State may attempt to do, as far as, stay where you are and build it back up. Duke, though, is a curious case, because I don't really know where they fit in. It seems like they would probably be best to stick around the ACC for as long as possible and try to keep that as close to what it was, even if Florida State and Clemson were to leave. But, that's strong numbers that certainly you can point to and be, confident about and feel good about if you're the ACC officials.
All right, there's a couple of notes. We don't have to do too much on this, but I want to get into LSU, Iowa before we get to the break. Our first guest is going to be Brendan Marks. He writes for college basketball for theathletic.com. We'll also have Mike Rodak, who covers Alabama, both men's basketball and the Final Four, football, spring drills going on, of practices. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Jason Scheer as well. Kirk Kirsa, who was at Arizona, then went to West Virginia, is going to be that average, what do we say, 3 teams, 3 schools? He's entered the portal, started out his career at Arizona. He's a good player. He was okay for West Virginia. He now has entered the transfer portal. Yeah. And West Virginia, of course, with a coaching change with Reese coming in.
I wonder, like, sometimes, again, like you see the DJ Burns, like that third school really worked out for him. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think there's got to be some kind of balancing out on the athlete's part of, are you better off staying at a place? Now, look, Tucker DeVries is coming in just like Caleb Love was coming into Arizona, and that probably, put the writing on the wall for Kerr here. But if you're going to get NIL anyway, and unless it's an exponentially large number, and for a guy who averages 11 points a game or whatever he had, I don't think that's going to be like this is not a guy who's a 25 point a game just scoring dynamo.
He was a stud at Arizona though, wasn't he? Yeah, I mean
But again, I just think the money you're going to get, especially for a year left of eligibility, is not going to be so life changing that it's going to be forever, right? It's not going to be, $30 million that you're going to have in a bank and you can just save that forever. I think maybe if you're going to get NIL, if you can stay at a place, you should just stay there and get better in the same system. That's my opinion. But I understand how things work. And that's why I think that maybe, that kind of idea will probably not happen to the young people of America that are doing this, but I would just stay.
Who knows? If someone's already tampered with him, maybe he and DeVries have had a conversation. I don't know why he's leaving, but he is.
That's the thing, is there's so many things behind the scenes that we just are not privy to. Like, it could be a girlfriend somewhere else, Like, it's not always the dollar chasing or the look at me or whatever that we tend to automatically resort to when thinking about why a guy or a gal is transferring once again. But it's weird. I mean, it really is weird. Like, I do think that you are in some cases better served to stick it out where you are. Like, what is the dollar difference, to your point, that makes it worth picking up again and going somewhere else and starting over again? And just, what does that do to the relationships that otherwise you would be building? Because that's a lot of what I've seen coaches who are not anti-portal, but what they're pointing to is not the money. And there are some people making life-changing money. I don't know if Kirk Chris is one of those. I wouldn't think so. But, those relationships that you'd be building otherwise that carry you on possibly later on in life, you're just busting through all of those, really. But hey, to each their own. It's your decision, and he's making the decision for himself to move on once again. So he's going to hit that third school mark, which I've been saying now for a few weeks that's the average. The norm now is 3 schools for everybody, or for across the board. The average, it almost feels like at this point. That's just another guy you can chalk up on that 3 schools list.
All right, so the men's Final Four was set Saturday, Sunday. The women, that now is set. Here's a note from Chris Vanini. I thought this was kind of funny. I was like, okay, where's this going? UConn is the first school to put its men's and women's basketball teams in the Final Four in the same year since North Carolina State yesterday. Very nice, Chris. I love, that's the part about Twitter that I absolutely love. Now,
and then underneath that it said nudes in bio.
But
it doesn't say that either.
Iowa beat LSU. I thought it would be a smoke. I thought that LSU would whop them, knock them out early. I thought they were just going to be too athletic. But you know what? There's some things that have been an Achilles for Kim Mulkey's teams when they have gone down in the postseason or any games. Here's a picture. This is from Reddit. It's not enough that LSU poached Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. They also now have the leprechaun. I had somebody text me yesterday after the show. I hadn't even started watching the game. I actually was on my way to the grocery store. Why is that blanking blank wearing green? I said, probably to get under the heads of you and Baylor fans.
I did like the Grinch memes even more. But
did you have that? Is that attached to that, Garrett? I guess not. No.
Yeah. I can find a Grinch one.
No, that's good. That's fine.
But the game, and look, I understand that I'm going to knock you guys over by telling you this. Watch the whole.
I saved the text.
Save it. Look, my issue with women's basketball has never been about women playing basketball. It's not that. It's just that I've had to cover so many blowouts over the years because of the lack of parity.
Yep.
It just wasn't fun to watch. Now, I've been to games that have been fun to watch, but the majority of the games that we had to cover, look, in the NCAA tournament, I watched Baylor several times just eviscerate teams. And when you're sitting there like, all right, let's just get this over with because this is pointless.
Well, it's 84-47.
Yeah, it's
like
ridiculous.
That, yeah.
It's not even a game. And so that's where my, kind of, eye rolls came at a lot of this stuff. But the game is getting better. The game is growing. There's better coaches. There's more depth. There's teams that, it's not just the same 4 teams every year. There is parity in women's basketball. Last night showed it. And last night also showed that Iowa found their way into the one strategy to beat Kim Mulkey, which is bomb threes. And when I say bomb threes, long threes, because if you're a step back of where she likes to go defend, those are the shots that you can make if you've got Caitlin Clark, the greatest scorer in women's basketball history. And you have to get enough foul calls to where you're living at the line a little bit. They got both those things last night and also played really good defense in the second half and won the game.
Well, we've seen Louisville and others beat them because they bombed threes and made them. And it's that's kind of like Alabama might have to do against UConn. Yeah. One note about last night, though, the difference between who was guarding Caitlin Clark this year compared to Alexis Morris, athletic, quick, and all that, and kind of got, kind of tough. That made a difference, too. They had no chance with Caitlin Clark, who also distributed the ball quite a bit, and she was what everyone has said she is, and they move on. Craig, your thoughts about the game?
I would add that LSU also didn't make shots. Mm-hmm. I mean, that doesn't help you when the other team's not missing, and they've got a once-in-a-lifetime type of superstar that's doing her thing, and you can't make shots. That doesn't bode well. Haley Van Lith, who was a big offseason addition for LSU, coming over from Louisville. At one point, you see the gif of her just throwing her hands up after Clark hits a three. Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to do?
That'll be in the list forever.
Like, what am I supposed to do? And I think that's just kind of how a lot of people end up feeling when they're guarding Caitlin Clark. But, I mean, she's definitely worth the hype that she's received these last couple of years as far as being that game-changing face of women's basketball, superstar type, along with some others as well. But that was on full display last night. I think, there's been many times over the years where people have, wish cast. They want what they're saying to be true, and they talk about how women's basketball's growing and that it's popular. No, trust us, and it's better than it's ever been. This time it's true, and if you want to know why it's true, Paul Catalina is sitting here talking about it passionately, and we'd always know he's been a closet women's basketball fan and expert, but, your WNBA mock drafts are legendary. But in all seriousness, he's sitting there talking about it right at the top of the show, not because he's got a gun to his head, but because it was interesting, because the characters involved were interesting, the coaches are interesting, the storylines are interesting, the teams, all of it's interesting, and it's not just like you're supposed to like this just because. It's like, no, there's reasons to be, into it and wanting to see what's going to happen with all of the nonsense that was going on with Mulkey and the media and all of the coverage of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and just all of the hype surrounding this game. It lived up to it in many ways, and it brought in what I believe will be a massive audience and probably a somewhat historic audience whenever we finally see those numbers, and I think that's great for women in basketball and in sports in general, and just for the growth of the game. I think it's fantastic. I don't know how you continue to keep putting it together year after year, because I don't think you're always going to be able to have this interesting set of circumstances.
Yep.
But I do think it's incredible progress as far as just attracting the attention of a lot of people that otherwise probably aren't paying attention to that game last night. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what that number is. But it was
I'm going to guess around. I saw Richard Deitch say that it's maybe around 10 million.
That would be incredible. That'd be incredible.
Yep.
But, I thought hats off to Iowa. Caitlin Clark's unbelievably fun to watch. They're a good team. She's obviously what makes them go. And then LSU's a great team in their own right with a lot of, faces and superstar level talent, and obviously a very polarizing head coach. And I just think there were a lot of elements that came into play to make that one, everybody stop down and watch women's basketball for one night. And I understand the sentiment of you wish it would have happened in the Final Four, but you can't make that happen. So we got it, and I'm just glad that we got Iowa and LSU part 2 because that would have been a real shame.
I know Iowa is,
yeah, but that would have been a real shame if we hadn't been able to get that from last year's game and see the second round of it. So yeah, hats off to everybody involved. That was a great game, and obviously Iowa are the ones that are happy today, but LSU's a great team in their own right.
One note here from Mike Finger. He's down in San Antonio. Might as well call Caitlin Clark the Washington Post because Kim Mulkey doesn't have an answer for her yet.
That was a great line.
He's pretty funny, dude. Now, let's discuss, and we have a guest coming up in 5 minutes, but let's take a couple of 3 or 4 minutes here on Angel Reese. I spoke with somebody that covers LSU earlier today. He called me and said that she is taking hell down in the Baton Rouge area, even from the local media, for trying to play the victim. A lot of people, she went on in the post-press conference along with her teammates defending her and what she's been through. They lost. We don't know how she would have reacted had they beaten Iowa again. We've seen her react when they've won other games too. I don't think when you are out there and you are braggadocious and you are full throttle and you are look at me, this is who I am, and you talk some trash when you are beaten, you know what? There's kind of a reality check. Some people have no problem with it. Maybe it's good because men's basketball, there's trash talkers. But Angel Reese last night in the press conference was in tears, started talking about how she's been the victim. Mike called me. I didn't ask him. And said that a lot of people thought that was not the way to go at that particular moment after they were beaten by Iowa last night in the Elite Eight.
No, it was not. And again, you have to the best trash talkers are the ones that when it gets thrown back at them, they're like, okay, well, I'll see you next time. Like, it's okay. This is one.
I think that's probably what happened with Caitlin Clark last year after the LSU game.
And that's what, when they had that fake controversy between the two of them where it was just like, anybody ever played basketball just in the gym before at the Y? There's trash talk. The good trash talkers are the ones that are like, all right, you got me now, but I'll see you next time. And look, for Angel Reese at LSU, there may not be a next time. She might be going to the WNBA. We don't know. She has, a few days to make that decision.
Less than another day and a half.
Yeah. So she's got a couple days to make that decision. So she can maybe move on. So maybe there's definitely not a next time playing Caitlin Clark in college because Caitlin Clark is leaving. So you have that. Look, they split against each other. Just take it and roll. I think that letting the emotions get the better of her and, again, playing the victim. Look, not diminishing any bad things that you've heard, but when you open the door for things, you have to be ready for things.
Well, yeah, and I'm an old white guy. I don't want to talk too much about Angel Reese and, my feelings on it because I know she doesn't care, and I know most of the people who are fans of Angel Reese do not care what I have to say about it. But I do think that LSU's got an opportunity. If she were to run it back, Flau'jae Johnson's coming back. Haley Van Lith, I bet, would come back as well because she wants to play for Mulkey for a second year. I mean, they can basically run it back with their stars and then add recruits and be really, really good next year. But, yeah, I think that there is a certain element of that press conference where Flau'jae Johnson got really defensive over Angel Reese, and Haley Van Lith did as well. And Angel Reese obviously was talking about how she's been bullied and people have talked trash and all these things. And I think it does go both ways. I do think she was on the losing end, and so she's under this microscope of maybe playing the victim a little bit more. But, there's also the reality of that. That's how it is. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is it was almost like they were trying to talk to the reporters or the audience, but they were talking about social media.
Yes, they were.
They were talking about people being mean on social media. So that's you don't have to be Angel Reese to get picked on social media. So I think that's just kind of a disturbing thing to me. Is maybe disturbing is too strong of a word, but that's the thing is they were caught up in what social media was saying and treating that as though it was like the whole world's against them. And I just don't think that's very healthy. I don't think that's good for us in the long term. And I don't think it's good that that's where their heads are at in some ways is like the world's against us because, Papa Doc 43 on Twitter is saying that he hates it. You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
You're complaining.
And I got to give Kim credit because that's what kind of she pointed to that.
I think
too.
she did.
Yeah.
And so they're talking, and you think are they talking about the Washington Post? No. Are they talking about the LA Times? No, they're talking about social media. So who is that? It's just nameless, faceless, whoever out there that's calling you names or bullying you. So I do think that needs to be taken into account as far as her comments go. And just the only other thing is one line she said that I just hope young people are kind of mindful of when they would talk about this, is I'm going to be unapologetically me. Yes. I do think there's great value in that, and I think that there is something to that depending on what interpretation you have of that. I think you should be yourself, but you should always be open to change. And I just worry that when you say unapologetically me, that maybe that young person who's watching that thinks that means that you just do whatever you want, no matter what gets in your way or who gets in your way, and you don't apologize because you're just going to be you, no matter who you run over. Does that make sense? Yep. And so I just hope that phrase, when it's applied for people, is not just taken as, I'm just going to do me no matter what. It's, no, you're going to be who you are, and you're not going to apologize for that. But that doesn't mean you just, walk over whoever and leave them in your wake. So, just when I hear that phrase, I just seen that applied a lot, and I hope that people who say that, and I'm sure Angel Reese does, really look into the meaning behind what that's supposed to mean, and not just, I'm going to do whatever I want at the cost of whoever,
It's one thing to say you're going to be who you are, but if you're going to be who you are, there are going to be people, when you get more exposure, there's going to be more scrutiny that comes with it, whether it's fair or not, and that itself is debatable. When we come back, Brendan Marks, he covers college basketball for The Athletic. He is next, and this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, Robinson, Texas, is my dentist, and my God, I'm glad that he is. He has done a lot of work with me, not just dental work, but also trying and giving me, you must do this better, or we must do this soon, or both. And he's done that with me. I've discussed the root canals and teeth being pulled and crowns and even like a retainer to help me with my front bridge while I wait for whenever I eventually maybe work with that too. But he has taken care of me and given me that game plan that I needed, and it has worked. And I appreciate him so much. He has met me at the office on a Friday night because I had this terrible pain when I bit into something with my back right molar. And he took care of me to get me through the next, 2.5 days, got me back in his dentist chair on Monday morning to fix it. Thank God he was able to do that, because I don't know how much the pain I would have had over the weekend. It was excruciating. Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Offering over 50 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, bar, silver sneakers, and 10 cycling classes with morning and evening classes available. New state-of-the-art bikes that allow you to compete against yourself with a screen monitoring your speed, miles, resistance, and power. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Botch, and Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow, losing inches in weight the right way. There's a kids club included with your membership, plus sauna and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts, plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior pro Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports every weekday, 3 until 6 Central Time. A lot of you, there are some of you on the West Coast, Mountain, and of course, even on the East Coast, and even some in different countries as we have grown over the last 4 years. Brendan Marks, college basketball writer for theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Brendan, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. How much fun will this be, the Final Four, with all the different storylines, including what is NC State and DJ Burns?
Yeah, for me, this is like my Christmas. I love the NCAA tournament, and the fact that we have both elements of what I think makes a great Final Four. Obviously, you've got the chalk at the top. You've got UConn. You've got Purdue. You've got two teams who have been basically in the top 5 of every poll, every metric all season long. But then again, like you mentioned, you've got a true underdog. You've got one of these Cinderellas in NC State, and to some extent Alabama too. Top 4 seed. I don't know if that counts, but you put all that together. I can't wait. I think the games, the matchups themselves are fascinating. Like, I wish I could fast forward to Saturday.
Brendan, as a person who this is their Christmas, we talked to Brett Yormark last week, and, I asked him about, expansion of the tournament, and he said it would be modest. How do you feel about the potential of expansion? Yeah,
I think that, if I had a perfect world, I wouldn't touch the NCAA tournament. I think that it is the best postseason in sports. I think, the fact that you don't always have perfection, like over the course of a 7-game series in professional leagues, in the NBA or in the MLB or whatever, you end up ultimately most of the time getting the better team. But in the span of one 40-minute contest, that's not always the case in college basketball. It's what makes upsets great. It's why we love March Madness. And so to me, it doesn't need to be toyed with. Ultimately, though, the people who make the decisions, the people who are in charge of the money, they're going to expand it. It's basically inevitable at this point. I would argue that the most minor expansion is probably the best case scenario for everybody involved. I think we're probably going to see that first 4 turn into something like a first 8, basically. I'm not expecting there to be huge changes, but, for people like Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, who have said, our teams don't have fair access, like NC State to me is a perfect example this year. NC State was not making the tournament if they didn't win 5 games in 5 days in Washington, D.C. in the ACC tournament. And they did that. They're the second high major team to ever win 5-5. 2011 UConn was the first. And they have earned the right to play in the tournament, and they've earned the right to keep playing from then on. So to me, I would rather not change it, but as little expansion as possible, I think is best for the tournament itself.
So, Brendan, right now, not only just on the men's side, but the women's side as well, seems like the combination of the two are about as hot as it's probably ever been. Certainly on the ladies' side, a lot of talk and buzz, especially after last night's game. But both sides have a spot of interest right now in Raleigh, North Carolina, as you wrote about for The Athletic. 2 teams in the Final Four. What's it like in Raleigh, North Carolina right now?
Yeah, honestly, for years, NC State fans have said they were cursed. Basically ever since the Wolfpack won the national championship in 1983, they've kind of just been languishing in like this miserable sports nightmare. And so the fact that has kind of been lifted, it's crazy. I mean, you see, when I flew into RDU coming back, I was in Los Angeles with North Carolina for the West region, which obviously Alabama ended up coming out of. But when I flew back into RDU, it was minutes after NC State had won, and they already had the LED signs changed. I walked around NC State's campus yesterday. It's like, Kevin Keats couldn't be the bigger rock star over there right now. So it's just really cool to see like a school like that has been suffering for a while in terms of sports fandom finally get an opportunity. I have no idea what's going to happen this weekend on the men's or the women's side, but just the fact that NC State is included in that, like, you have a generation of fans who have kind of been living off of a memory or off of a story, and now they get to experience it themselves. That part is really cool just to be, in close proximity to.
That is funny that you say the way you say it as a story, because 1983, for every single student that's not, coming back to their, second thing in life, that's what it is to them. Like it's stories their parents and grandparents have told them. So it's not a memory as much as it is a thing they see painted on the wall. So it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, and like there's this classic NC State bar that opened in like 1950, 1951 called Players Retreat. And when Joe Valvano was the coach, he used to go there. He had a quote-unquote booth that was his, and he would basically hold court there. And you walk into Players Retreat today, which I did yesterday, and it's still all those same old photos. It's cardiac pack bumper stickers. It's license plate. Like, that is the way that NC State fans, at least like the current generation, knows about, that 1983 run, and obviously the documentary and all of the stories they've heard. And there's a number of figures from that 1983 team who are still around campus. I think, I was listening or trying to listen as best I could to a couple of tours that were going on around campus when I was walking around yesterday. And, one of the parents of a student who I guess was potentially going to enroll was asking the tour guide, what is it like being a student? And she was saying how great it was. And then asked, did you go to NC State? And he said, yeah, I lived through that. And she said, I know you've been waiting 40 years for this. So it is really cool just to have it happen like that, and to happen in a similar fashion to that run in 83 obviously makes it that much more special.
Brendan, as you know, I contacted you trying to get you on last week, but man, the media sessions and the coverage, it was just not the right time. So when I reached back out to you, and then I saw your story about your father and where he was buried in a cemetery, in the same cemetery as Jim Valvano and also Lorenzo Charles. And there's the tweet we put up. There's the Valvano headstone. Wow. I mean, how that connects to you too.
Yeah. I remember when we buried my dad, and as we were, going through making all the processionals, it's kind of like a quippy one-liner. If a funeral can have a funeral home can have those, they kind of throw it in like, hey, and by the way, Jimmy V's buried here. And so now, after I obviously as a sports fan and a sports lover myself, like every time I go to visit my dad on the way out, I just take one extra turn and I go past Jimmy V's headstone. And usually I have never been there where there's nothing at his gravesite. There is usually some flowers or a ribbon or a letter. For a while there was a basketball where somebody had etched "Never Give Up" like into the ball, and it had faded from orange to white because it'd been out in the elements for so long. But I figured, no better time to go than yesterday. And, I've never seen it that packed. And I probably should have tweeted out a photo of Lorenzo Charles's gravesite as well, because he had some flowers and had some autographed flags and things down there. But it's just overwhelming how many NC State fans are still going back to that gravesite. I saw one Twitter user responded to me and said that she's been going there and dropping off flowers every game, pregame, as like a superstition. So, I cannot emphasize enough to people who are not from Raleigh, North Carolina, like how much NC State collectively as an athletics department and school has been chasing the magic that Jim Valvano summoned back in 1983. They've been chasing it for 40 years. And so the fact, again, that it's happening in a similar fashion, that it has been, 9 wins in 20 days now after a team that was 17-14 in the regular season, like people are going back there, and it feels like if there was a curse that was lifted, it feels like, or if there was a curse in general, it feels like it's been lifted now. And it's pretty cool just to see the outpouring of support still for the Valvano family.
One of the things that we had Gary Hahn, the voice of NC State, who's retired or trying to retire, but is certainly enjoying the fact that he has at least one, maybe two more games left. And we brought up 83, and then he said, it's
an elite club to be a part of. And so, obviously, again, 83 gets all the headlines just because it was so memorable and everything. And but there have been opportunities. Like NC State has had good teams since. If you had asked me a month ago, where does this stack up in the last decade of NC State teams? I don't even know that I would have said it was in the top 5. But again, kind of like in 83, this team has caught some magic. They're playing with house money at this point. And I think strictly from a basketball standpoint, they're a really difficult matchup to plan for, especially if you have a 1-day turnover, but even in a 3 or 4-day turnover, just because they have so many different pieces and so many different combinations. And, that's part of the fun of this whole story too, is all the different characters.
Brendan Marks with us, theathletic.com on 365 Sports. The Final Four coming up, of course, this weekend.
What would you have said was the status of the coaching staff at 17 and 14 compared to now when they're talking extension?
Yeah, well, so, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I went to the ACC tournament on Tuesday in Washington, D.C., the first day when, there's quite literally dozens of fans in the stands, because there was a good chance that if NC State had lost its first game in the ACC tournament to Louisville, which obviously fired Kenny Payne basically immediately after the season ended, if NC State had lost that game, which it trailed at halftime, I think there's a very good chance that Kevin Keatts also would have no longer been the coach at NC State. And so to go from that to being, the center of all of these job conversations, and players are outwardly being asked, what do you think about the status of your coach? What's your case for keeping Kevin Keatts? Yada, 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 on and on. And now, by virtue of NC State having made it this far, by virtue of NC State having won the ACC tournament, Kevin Keatts' contract had several provisions in it. He's already been granted a 3-year extension. He's already been granted a $400,000 raise, and he's already made several $100,000 in bonuses too. So, I mean, if I'm not kidding here. If NC State wins 2 games in Phoenix this weekend, I would not at all be surprised if the man gets a lifetime contract. I'm serious. To go from being on the brink to that, it would be one of the most incredible coaching stories of any sport that I've probably seen in my lifetime. It is just miraculous to turn around and the perception of Kevin Keatts from late February to now.
Brendan, when it comes to having both teams still alive in the tournament, I know UConn has that as well. How does the share of the kind of love go around? Are the men kind of soaking up most of the headlines, or are the women getting their fair share as well? What is sort of the balancing act you feel like across campus and throughout Raleigh right now?
Yeah, I think obviously the improbability of the men's run has played a big role in the attention that they're getting. And obviously after they won the ACC tournament, which the women did not do, that was a big selling point. ACC tournament shirts are still, going like hotcakes here. However, over the last 5 to 7 years, the NC State women have been by far and away the better of the 2 programs. It's not even close. The women won 3 consecutive ACC tournament titles from 2020 to 2022. In 2022, they swept the ACC. They had the regular season as well, made the Elite 8, lost in pretty controversial fashion to UConn in a game that was played in Connecticut when NC State was the number 1 seed playing a de facto road game. So the women's program has had crazy support over the years. I would argue they've probably had better attendance over that span than the men. So certainly the women are getting their shine, and I think it's been cool to see too. The men and the women continue to shout each other out. The women's game, they qualified for the Final Four a couple of hours before the men did, right as they were getting back into their locker room. And both the men and the women were FaceTiming each other after they won their game. So it's cool to see it be split equally. And, again, they both have really tough tasks waiting for them in the Final Four. But, I'm done, Pat. I'm done picking, anybody but NC State. I'm done being wrong about thinking NC State's going to lose.
Well, it's been a great story, and the footwork and the touch, what DJ Burns has brought to the table, he against a 7'4" guy, will be interesting. Brendan, you can hear and feel the passion of college basketball in your voice. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Glad we got a chance to get you on, and go enjoy your Christmas this week.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoy all the games, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
We will absolutely do that. Brendan Marks, the athletic.com with us, and the great story about his father in the same cemetery in Raleigh. as Jim Valvano and one of the great names during that time as well in Lorenzo Charles. When we come back, a couple of nuggets to get to. Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine ranking the top 5 cornerbacks in the Big 12. In the state of Texas. We'll have that. Plus, we'll also hear at 4 o'clock from Mike Rodak. He covers Alabama, their football going on, and the basketball team in the Final Four. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. Man, I can't tell you how good that family is, the Duval family. I met them. I met them. It was worth it. I'm so glad that I went and saw Aaron. Aaron and a lot of people on his staff at the ranch, they have a bunch of deer. And they were also making sure the deer was healthy and checking the deer. And as they had them in a pen. And I mean, these things were all over the place. His son Tyler was there helping as well as they were making sure the health of the deer was good. And it was great to watch that process. Then I got in the car and drove down the road, and I met Samantha Duval. She, of course, is their marketing director at TexasBeefHouse.com, and her house is on all these acreage of a bunch of bad, alpha Angus bulls. And I got up close to a couple of them, and I didn't get too close, and it's just gorgeous. And she also showed me their, it's not a showroom, but where they keep the product once they have gone through the process. Farm-raised Wagyu Angus bulls and beef from their family, from their yard, from their ranch to your plate. It's incredible. April 25th will be another online auction. You can be in person or online. Don't forget that. We'll have more information on that. They have specials by going to TexasBeefHouse.com. It was fantastic to meet the family for a change. I'd seen Aaron when he and his wife were here for a Baylor football game, but to see what they have is spectacular. And now you know why their beef is so good. Farm-raised Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com. Samantha Duval, TexasBeefHouse.com. I know business is rolling along, and you've got a special right now that involves Wagyu hamburger patties, but something extra special with that.
So we've got a deal going on right now that if you buy our family bundle, the 28-pound Wagyu hamburger patty bundle, we're going to throw in some of our beef bacon and our flat iron steak for free. And flat iron steak, as our family, our whole Duval family, that is one of our favorite steak, and it's not a well-known steak. This is something that's in our auction. So we want people to try this flat iron prior to, and that way, whenever it comes time for our auction on April 25th, you have your chance to bid on the beef, the entire case of flat iron.
I've used flat iron steak as well. It's a unique piece of beef, obviously, and everything Wagyu, farm-raised Wagyu beef, TexasBeefHouse.com.
There's 2 different ways that we eat it. You can either grill it like you grill a normal steak and eat it like that, or another thing that I like to do in our family is we make it in a stir fry. So we slice it up in little thin pieces, put it on the stove with some coconut oil, blanch some broccoli, and we eat it as a little stir fry with steak and broccoli.
My mom did that too with flat iron steak. TexasBeefHouse.com, just outside of Tyler and White House, the Duval family and the ranch. Farm-raised Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33. Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
So I happened to see this and glanced at it. I was on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine site for a second. And Mike Craven, who covers a lot of college football, he now, in fact, is at the University of Houston watching one of their spring practices. The top 5 cornerbacks, according to Mike Craven, in the state of Texas, as far as any school, any conference, anywhere, and Baylor with 2 of the top 4. Caden Jenkins, who had a spectacular freshman year, Cale Sanders Jr. from SMU, number 2, A.J. Odoms of UTEP is 3, Carl Williams the 4th at number 4, and Terrence Brooks, good-looking player out of the University of Texas at 5. He now extends the list from 6 to 8 to 10. That includes Jatravis Broughton, TCU, Isaiah Hamilton from Houston, so there's a Cougar on the list. Braylon Lux from Texas Tech, Will Lee from A&M, and Ridge Tejada, part of that great Tejada family that has produced 3 different college football players, including Raleigh at Baylor, on the list at number 10.
Will Lee's the transfer from Kansas State, correct? That went to A&M. Caden Jenkins at number 1. Not a surprise. He's a ball hawk. He's an absolute ball hawk. I'm curious to see how is his game up by just having his brother there with him, right? I mean, that's kind of a cool thing that you're there. You're not apart anymore.
From Wyoming?
UNLV.
UNLV,
yeah.
That's right.
So look, that's what they're going to have to really build around. And if Baylor has 2 guys on the list, that's good news. For them, because they need to bounce back in some way. I think this is a pretty interesting list. Like seeing an SMU player on there too. Wish the best for them. All the games but one this year as they transition into the P4. But I think it's an interesting list.
Yeah, Will Lee was from Kansas State, so you were right on that. I thought that you'd see Malik Muhammad on there from Texas, but
the kid,
I don't know the studying and whatnot that went into this, and I'm just going off the cuff, and I haven't looked into this in depth by any means. So I don't really have grand thoughts on the order or the inclusion or exclusion of anybody in particular. I mean, obviously some of these names need to be on here that are really solid players, but I don't know where to begin as far as like who might be overlooked. But Malik Muhammad was just a name that came to mind. But just I guess looking at this from just in terms of some good news for Baylor, it's great to have 2 young corners that are on this list and that got a little bit of trial by fire and now have that seasoning that should really steer them well this upcoming season. The thing about these guys is just that this part of college football that I'm not a real fan of is, unfortunately, you have to really enjoy them while they're around, because the moment either one of those guys gets too big, I mean, Caden Jenkins had a nice freshman year, but they were already having to negotiate to bring him back, right? Because of NIL and whatnot.
Absolutely, and that was one of those
for a sophomore season.
Push that button a little bit quicker,
for a sophomore season. So he's obviously going to be around this year, and so will Carl Williams. But that's just one of those things when you look down the line of you can no longer say man, imagine if 3-4 years where these guys are going to be. It's I hope they're here in 3 or 4 years, But for 2024, those 2, and I think the secondary in general, having the stability of Kevin Curtis back as cornerbacks coach, whereas there's been changes everywhere else pretty much on staff, that is a anchor that is still in place for the cornerback room. They're not changing position coaches. Aranda obviously has a lot of success when it comes to defenses, but also particularly the secondary. I think that should bode well. I think a little bit less on Matthew Powell's plate bodes well for the secondary in general, so we should see some improved play, you would think, from the safety group, and that should help Jenkins and Williams. But yeah, Baylor, if you start at their positives, I think you start at the cornerback spot, and then you go wherever you want to after that, maybe to running backs or something, but you definitely start with a cornerback, so not shocked to see both those guys on there, and they should be primed up for pretty big years.
And just sophomores this year.
Yeah.
Carl Williams, who got overlooked, and of course a lot of people did because they were 3 and 9. Tremendous coverage skills, according to Craven, the Louisiana product. 83.5 coverage grade for PFF, which is top 40 in the country, so a couple of players coming back on Brooks at UT. Enters his junior year with 19 starts in 23 games. The Little Elm native was an honorable mention, all Big 12 selection a year ago as a sophomore, thanks to a career high when it comes to 3 interceptions. You mentioned Jenkins, and he is a ball hawk, no doubt. We know about the scoop and score that kickstarted the comeback against UCF. He was everywhere. The ball's in the air, on the ground, Caden Jenkins. Again, this is one list. There'll be 50 of them. But Mike Craven put it out there, thought I would I'll put that up on the show. Texas Tech with Braylon Lux at 8, and then Paul mentioned K-State transfer Will Lee of A&M at number 9. And the Tejada family, we know what they've done in the past at the cornerback position. In fact, Raleigh, he got burned a few times, but he ended up over his career at Baylor with some of the best numbers ever and played a lot with a team, in fact, that was also at times he was young when he got a chance to play. But here's a couple of players now that are part of Baylor as sophomores in the defensive backfield at cornerback. Mike Rodak covers the Alabama for CBS Sports in 247, joins us on 365 Sports. Mike, thank you very much. Alabama, to me, if there's somebody that can go into the game against UConn and just wing it, that's not a negative, but they can fire the 3, number 2 in the country, making threes. It seems like at least that's their chance. Am I right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to have to be a higher scoring game. I mean, this isn't a Alabama team that's going to grind out a game and win with their defense and win with the big man and slow it down. But that's not really how they play. I mean, they've had good defenses in the past. I think that's somewhat of a misconception, is that they don't play defense. They did it really well last year. They did it really well 3 years ago. They have not been good on defense this year. So their offense is really, I think, the key to this. And they've played, pretty well recently. They've shot the ball pretty well against Clemson. They shot the ball really well in the second half against North Carolina. So that's something that Nate Oates has said too, where they want to speed it up, get into a running game, get in transition, and try not to get into a half-court sort of game with UConn. Otherwise, I just don't see them having the right pieces to make that happen.
Mike, this was a team last week that got so hot bombing those threes, but it's like you mentioned, it's not just that. I mean, they've got Klingon in the middle that they have to deal with. Do they have enough size to take him off his game?
So there's, a lot of questions for Alabama, big questions, no pun intended, where they really did not have good games against big men this year. I mean, they got beat 3 games in a row in December against Arizona, Purdue, and Creighton, where Zach Edey had his way against them, and Ryan Kalkbrenner had his way against them for Creighton, and Bio for Arizona. It was an issue. Tennessee, I mean, Auburn with Janai Brome, they got beat by a lot of different teams this year, and one of the common themes was the big man. And so you went into the North Carolina games thinking, well, Armando Bacot's going to have a field day. And, they doubled him. He still had, I think, 19 points, but it wasn't overwhelming. And they did a pretty good job against them. And then Clemson, too. I mean, P.J. Hall was a guy who back in November tore apart Alabama's front court. They beat Alabama back in November. Clemson did. And this past game, they got P.J. Hall to foul out. I think he was 6 of 14 shooting. So, something's changed, with their front court and the same players, but they're playing harder. They're playing better on defense, and I would give them a little bit of a better shot against Klingon, but Klingon's still probably the best big man that they've seen all year, except for Edey.
Do they just have this fearless ability to not even look at the score sometimes and just keep firing it off? That's what I saw, and I love it because whether they're up 10 or down 10, they just go and play.
Yeah, I mean, that's Nate Oates' philosophy. It's just keep shooting. If you're not shooting, if you're passing up open threes, he'll take you out of the game. He gets mad at that because it all comes down to efficiency. And to him, an open three-pointer is one of the most efficient shots that you can take, just like a layup is one of the most efficient shots that you can take. And so if you're taking a higher percentage shot, then he wants you to keep doing that, even if you're not hitting them. So it doesn't mean you're just shooting threes 50 times a game if you're covered, because a covered three-pointer when you're defended is a much lower percentage shot. But if you're open, he wants you to shoot it. No matter what the scoreboard says, no matter what the game situation is, shoot it. So, that's just as part of his philosophy. And, it's obviously worked to get his team to where it is now.
Mike, how much of it has been a breath of fresh air because of some of the off the court controversy and stories that they were hit with a year ago, and that this team has just gone out and played?
Yeah, it's a different team. There's only 3 players that are left from last year's team. And yeah, last year's team, was worn down in a couple different ways. Obviously, the Darius Miles, murder charge and, everything that was kind of swirling around Brendan Miller and Jaden Bradley. And that was a team that just by March kind of seemed out of gas. They weren't shooting the ball very well. They were the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, but they got bounced in the Sweet 16. And there were some guys that were kind of banged up too. Miller was hurt in the tournament last year, but the team that underachieved. But it was probably a better team, talent-wise, than what this team is. This team, even though they've been banged up a little bit too, just kind of seems to have a better vibe, especially lately. And they've really kind of had this sense of urgency. And they were just on the road for, I think, 12 nights together, going from Spokane out to L.A. And they have just come together at the right time, kind of off the court. And there's, some moments on the court too, where just random guys have stepped up that we weren't really expecting. And that's what you need to go far in a tournament like this.
Mike, does this Final Four run secure Nate Oates where now he's proven he can do it at Alabama, that it would take a pretty large swing from a blue blood to get him out? I know he's kind of a lot of Texas fans on the internet. He's their kind of maybe Nick Saban of basketball, where they always thought Nick Saban's heart laid in Austin, Texas. Do you think Nate Oates could be there really for the long haul now?
Yeah, I think at least for the short term, it's going to be tough for any other school to pull him out of there. He just signed a contract extension that has an $18 million buyout, really for the next 2 years here. And it does start to go down after that. I would imagine they'll probably try to extend him again. They've done it 3 times already. But there might come a day where, Nate Oates wants to maybe move to a school that is a little bit more of a basketball sort of tradition. I think, Michigan State's kind of the one in everybody's mind because he was a high school coach in Michigan and Tom Izzo's getting towards the end of his career. But at the same time, Nate has a daughter who's a student at Alabama. He has another daughter at high school who may go to Alabama herself. And I think he, enjoys being there. I think he sees it as an opportunity to build Alabama into a basketball school. I think he sees it as a place that really loves college sports and there's a lot of resources. So I don't think he's going to be jumping, and he hasn't to this point, for just any job that's out there. Now, do I think he's going to be the coach of Alabama in 10 or 15 years? I would have doubts about that.
So, Mike, the football team's going through what they go through with Kalen DeBoer. My God, it was like the world stopped for there a little bit when the Nick Saban story came out. He was retiring. How would you say DeBoer and everyone else now has reacted, and where they are, what has it been, like a couple of months later, on what could have been just like the ice broke and everybody fell in the water?
Yeah, no, it's really stabilized. I think, there's obviously a lot of losses through the portal. I think 30 guys total. A lot of those actually happened before Kalen DeBoer even set foot on campus. There's a lot of guys who had left when Saban was still technically the coach. And I think now that, they've gotten Caden Proctor, who was one of the guys who left through the portal, the 5-star offensive lineman, he's coming back from Iowa. That was a big win for them. I think one of the big questions for DeBoer was recruiting the South, because he's not from here, doesn't really have any experience here. And they've already picked up a few guys over the last few weeks that have started to, prove that they can recruit here. So, there's been little wins here and there. And, I think we're all going to see the product on the field in another 10 days here when they have their spring game. And I'm sure, it may not look the most polished because it's a new system and there's a lot of new players. But, overall, I think, it could have gone further south than it did, certainly. And, they kept things reasonably under control for that really crazy week. And, they've started to build things back up over the last month or two here.
So just go ahead and say it now. They don't care about football anymore in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's a basketball school.
Well, yeah, I was talking to the athletic director, Greg Byrne, on the court after they just beat Clemson. I said, "You guys still have a football team?" And he's like, "Yeah, baby." It's different, but honestly, most of the reporters this week are going to be out in Phoenix at the Final Four. There's 3 different press conferences for football, and I don't know how many people are going to be there to talk to Kalen DeBoer. Never would have thought that.
Where were you when the news of Saban hit?
I was actually at the gym. I had kind of heard about it, that it might happen, and I was a little bit in disbelief or just not wanting to believe it. And I said, oh man, I really want to get a workout in today. So I get to the gym, and then 4:04, I think I checked my phone, and sure enough, it happened. And needless to say, I was in scramble mode from there.
Has Nick Saban been to Rama Jammas yet? Now that he knows it exists.
Right. Yeah. I don't think he has, but people, that was an ESPN article that said, he didn't know it was there. He didn't know what it was. And this is like an iconic place in Tuscaloosa. People said, oh, he's just kidding. He's joking. He is not. Believe me, Nick Saban lived in his own bubble. Like, he absolutely did not know that was a thing in Tuscaloosa. So he's starting to open up a little bit. He's starting to kind of see the world. He's just kind of the quintessential tunnel vision sort of guy when he was a coach for a very, very long time, and it worked out really well.
Mike, you know what I can't believe? I can't believe he wasn't there for like a photo shoot or just, any kind of thing ever in 17 years on that. Like, it's not like it's far from the stadium.
Isn't it like a block or two away?
No, it's like, it's almost, it feels like it's connected to it. It's the first place I went when I went to Tuscaloosa. Like, I went there. We waited a long time for a table and sat down so I could say we got the full experience. Like, just to never to have like him and the mascot and 3 players and like, or some kind of thing for a magazine, a newspaper, a website, nothing blows my mind.
He moved around, though, like he was the president of the United States. There's the security detail, the 2 state troopers, the Mercedes, SUVs in front of him. Like, it was a convoy. And he was always just so regimented. And, all right, if I'm doing this, I have this person handling this for me. And I'm, they're opening the door. And he lived that life for, 17 years at Alabama, and just never really ventured outside of that. I think even that ESPN article said he went to the pharmacy for the first time to pick up his own prescription, and he went to the grocery store. Like, he never did those things. Absolutely believe that. Like, all that was done for him. So yeah, that's who he was. He just went into the facility every day, went to his office, and tried not to be out in the public eye too much.
Well, I remember either the evening of the announcement when it came out, or the next day when he arrived at the Alabama offices, that he got out of his car, looked like a really nice, like a Beamer or whatever it was, Lexus, whatever it might be, and he had somebody come walking around to take his car probably and park it, had somebody there waiting for him at the door. He's that powerful, but I never felt like he let that get in his head. Like, he preaches what it's like about team and individuals working together, and I never felt like he ever really went down the wrong rabbit hole. The story about the pharmacy and the grocery store is hilarious. It's like he's like moved into a different country.
Could you imagine just being the pharmacist and he like walks in as like Nick Saban for my Lipitor, and they're like, what?
That was really good.
Does he even need to say his name? What's your date of birth? Let me confirm that you're who you are.
Mike, what were the initial thoughts? And again, thanks for your time on both the men in the Final Four and also Alabama football. What were your thoughts on the DeBoer when he was hired? Was there any thought at all that Jalen Milroe, the fit, even though he had a really great ending to the year, although the last call against Notre Dame didn't go well, was there any thought that he might not stay at Alabama?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, for a lot of the players, kind of that process of what are my options. And I would imagine for Jalen Milroe, given some of his success last year, were there other schools probably calling him with pretty big offers?
Name your price, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. But, Jalen, I think, is a very loyal guy to Alabama. He's kind of his own regimented guy himself. He's in the facility at 4 a.m. every day. Like, he's very, very focused himself. And it just didn't seem like he wanted to stray from where he had been, that path that he was on. So, look, I think for now, Kalen DeBoer is certainly all in on Jalen Milroe. He's had a lot of great things to say about him this spring. Is he the best right fit for this offense under Kalen DeBoer, I think we'll just have to see. I think they're going to run with it. I think DeBoer's trying to be flexible. I don't think, it's a precision passing offense. I don't think that's necessarily Jalen's strength. He's more of a home run hitter in terms of the running and his arm, but we'll see. They can make it work. That's the marriage I think they're going to try to make work here.
Well, one thing I was told, Kim, on our chat room, Mike, was that again, Saban owns a Mercedes dealership. We know that. That's what he was driving, not something else. That's what he was most likely driving. Mike, great stuff, man. I watch your timeline. You do a great job covering Bama. Thanks for your time, and hope we get you on again down the road. Have a great day.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Mike Rodak, 247, covers Alabama, with us on the men's basketball team in the Final Four, while the spring football continues the practices with Kalen DeBoer as their head coach. This is 365 Sports. Just around the corner, Jason Scheer on the Bobby Robbins. He's leaving. We knew he was, but man, and I don't know if the realignment. I don't know if Arizona, and then, of course, also Arizona State happens without Bobby Robbins. We'll ask him about that. We tried to get him on the show soon after all that. Most of the media were like, can we let this calm down a little bit? Still waiting to hear from the Utah AD, Colorado AD. We want to hear from them. We want to hear their stories about where they are and maybe also what they can bring to the table other than wins, losses, etc. with sports. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Man, you think about how Nick Saban built Alabama, nearly 2 decades of incredible. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has been in business since 1943 with incredible. From the very first time they opened up the doors, you have to have great product. For example, we hear about the handshake, which not all businesses, like you hope, but not all of them really do. Customer service, they can say it, but not all of them really do. And then, for example, let's say you own a restaurant. You could be the nicest guy in the world. You could have a lot of friends, but your food better be damn good, and the service better be really good, or it doesn't matter how good a person you are. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has all of it. Great customer service, friendly handshake, look you eye to eye, and incredible product, pipe, steel, and metal for things that are built, real estate and commercial. And their new location that's now, a year and a half old, off of Loop 340 and Highway 6, just a little bit east of I-35, 1943, pioneerboys.com.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Experience the adrenaline-pumping performance and cutting-edge technology of Dodge. From the sleek and stylish 2023 Charger to the performance and muscle of a Challenger to the bold and rugged Durango. During Dodge Power Shot Days, we're offering amazing deals and special incentives that will make driving a new Dodge even more exhilarating. Don't miss out on these exclusive savings. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco today and unleash the power of Dodge.
Come by. Let's be friends.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, with us. Covers Arizona everything, and someone we got to know during, at least at the time, it was like murmuring about what's going to happen with the Pac-12 and the USC-UCLA story that eventually led to the conference exploding in the wrong way. And then, of course, Oregon State, Washington State left with what they have, although they're going to get paid. Jason, thanks for your time. Craig's at Baylor football practice. I know you have to get to Arizona's football, too. Would the realignment of the 4 schools for the Pac-12 have happened, would that have happened without Bobby Robbins?
No, I really don't think so. I think, I don't know what his replacement, let's say he wasn't at Arizona. I don't know what whoever would have been at Arizona would have done, but I know that Robbins was active and pretty much the leader of the Arizona schools. I think if Michael Crow over at ASU got his way, they would not have gone to the Big 12, but Robbins did a good enough job convincing him and kind of leading the way in that regard.
So, Jason, how much of this is about the debt? How much of this is just it's time? What is really fueling this?
Yeah, it's the debt. I mean, he Robbins signed some bad deals, and it wasn't very forthcoming necessarily in how bad they were, the ways that they were going to fix them, and eventually the governor got involved, and when that happened, and the governor started publicly saying that she was unhappy, it was kind of just the writing on the wall, and the professors and the faculty kind of were turning against them, and the answer wound up being layoffs and things like that, and then that's never good. And I think Robbins kind of said, you know what, I'm this is going to end badly for me, so I might as well resign before it does, and that's what we saw today.
So how much longer did he have? And he made the comment, I saw your tweet, we put it up, that if they find somebody to replace me, I'll walk out the door. Obviously didn't help with the transition, but was this just imminent and like in the next 2 or 3 weeks, month?
Yeah, I mean, the vibe I got was that this summer they were going to tell him we're not renewing your contract, pretty much, and I actually thought that they would let him finish out his contract and then they just wouldn't renew him. That's not the case, obviously, and I think that pretty much. I don't expect this to drag out too long. The vibe is that they'll probably have a school president by the summer. And they even said today, the Board of Regents said they're going to move pretty fast. And Robbins knows that his time is pretty much up. He's probably got a couple more months. And it was always kind of just in the back of everyone's mind and kind of the back of the process, like, okay, when is it going to happen? And there were a few times where we kind of got the vibe that it was going to happen, and Robbins came out unscathed, and he did a really nice job, to be honest, of kind of extending this whole thing. But it was a matter of time, and I think that Robbins said, you know what, I'm not making it to the end of my contract anyway. The university looks bad right now. The governor is more involved than ever. I'm just going to resign and try to take some heat off.
How fast do you think it'll go, replacing him?
I think it'll move pretty fast. I mean, you never know with these things, but I don't think it'll be an internal hire or anything. I think they'll go outside, but the Board of Regents said they want to make the hire with expediency and a couple months probably. I mean, I don't really know, but it's something that with the budget and all that, I would think they want to get it done pretty fast.
When I looked up I just Googled Bobby Robbins resigns, and obviously what you've had with your story, but it said resign midst of budget crisis. We've discussed that. And then it said online school controversy. What is that about?
So he signed a deal, basically a purchase of an online school, and the online school has some controversy behind it with credits and financial stuff, and they lost a ton of money on it. They lost money, and the online school got in trouble, and they basically kind of overpaid a little bit of it. And Robbins kind of said the issues were overblown, but what he was saying it wasn't really backed up by facts, and it was one of these online diploma mill type of schools, and they thought it'd be beneficial to Arizona and make the university some money, and it wound up doing the opposite.
Like the University of Phoenix?
Yeah, something like that, pretty much.
Okay.
Something like that. Jason, the basketball team's earlier exit than they wanted this year. They're knocking on the door, Tommy Lloyd there. They come into the Big 12 next year. What do you think the offseason is going to be like for them so that they can get over that hump?
Yeah, I mean, they gotta get better at a few positions. The team is going to look considerably different. I mean, you have 4 seniors on that team. They could come back another year if they wanted to. They're not going to. They got to wait and see what Kylan Boswell does at the point. There's rumors he could enter the transfer portal. If he does, they got to go get a transfer. And they had a couple guys enter the transfer portal yesterday that weren't big contributors. I think the biggest thing they need to do is, last year they really only had 7, maybe 8 guys that could contribute. They had a lot of guys on the bench, 4 or 5 guys that just weren't good enough to play. And I think Tommy Lloyd has realized that that's not a recipe for success in the Big 12. And so they're kind of parting ways with a few of those guys, and they're going to try to get more athletic. And it's probably not going to be as active as an offseason as last year, simply because they're bringing in a big freshman class. But there's still definitely positions that they need to address.
I saw your tweet that Kirk Krisa, point guard, Arizona, he left to go to West Virginia. Wasn't there very long when he decided to enter the portal, whether he was asked to or what. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I was just messing with people.
Sure.
It's funny because, it was Kirk Krisa versus Kylan Boswell, and everyone thought that Boswell was going to be better than Krisa, and, it wound up kind of not being the best for both parties, right? And, Kirk Krisa went, and he committed to Bob Huggins, and then Bob Huggins left, and Kurt, that's a different situation now. And he's a decent point guard. It's an interesting how, it's neither guy kind of met expectations while they were at Arizona. And ideally, even if Kylan comes back, he matches expectations, and hopefully Kurt goes somewhere and is a good fit. And, Xavier is probably a place that I would keep an eye on just because he knows the coaching staff there. But it'll be interesting to see where he winds up.
So your thoughts now, if you don't mind, I know you got to go to football. My last question for you, with the Final Four, UConn, Purdue, NC State, and obviously Alabama. We just had a writer that covers them, and they get up and down. They will throw it up, man. And it sounds like I'm just saying undisciplined. They will not stop shooting. What are your thoughts about any of those 4?
I just don't see how anyone beats UConn. I just think they're such a well-oiled machine. Alabama maybe has a chance if they shoot 43s and make 20 of them, which they're very capable of doing. That's kind of their offense, but I just don't see UConn being beat. It's not just, they're not just beating opponents right now. I mean, they're blowing them out. These teams don't even belong on the same court, and it is remarkable that as good as they were last year, you can make an argument that this year's team is better.
I agree. They have just hammered people. We'll never know because it's not always the best team that wins the Final Four, but who's hot, and sometimes that's the same team. Jason, as always, it had been too long, sir, because of all of the realignment kind of tidied up, but we've had you on. We'll have you on maybe later on a post-spring football summary. Thanks for your time, and good luck at practice today.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Jason Scheer, 247. Man, during all of the time since the July news in 2020, was it 2020 or 2021 with Texas OU? 2021. From the time that popped until, and even now you have the uncertainty of the ACC and whatever else, but we have gotten to know a lot of great people who cover college sports, administrators, not just football coaches, ADs, players, media. Endeavor, and there was a story about them going private, whatever. But man, it's been fun to get to know. Did not know Jason Scheer. Jason Scheer did not know us, although. Who's our good friend? Have we put anything up on the BYU tight end?
Isaac
Is
Rex.
that up?
It should be up on YouTube.
It's up on YouTube. It should be up. Is it
up?
No, we need to blast that out to Mars.
Yeah. Look, we need to clip that one thing where he said he loves our show.
The BYU tight end walks up to us, and we introduce ourselves to him, and he goes, I know you guys. I'm a subscriber of your show. You're the ones that were always on target during realignment. A young man in Provo.
Yeah, well, I mean,
player.
he's younger than us, but I mean, those players are older. No,
basically anybody walking around this building.
He was great. It made me have a new goal. Look, Ryan Montgomery, the running back from Cincinnati, we got him to subscribe.
Did you really?
Yeah, he's a podcast.
How about my buddy Beanie Bailey?
Beanie Bishop. I think we'll get Beanie Bishop. I've often thought, so we need to partner with and do collabs with like Open Doors and like the NIL companies because we can get those athletes on our show and we could. I mean, you just give them your debit card number and you'll be fine. No, I don't want to pay them. I'm saying like if we partner with them. Partner with them where we collaborate where it benefits us because we get cool athletes on the show, and it benefits them because people can say, look, Kim Coulter, like he's a big Texas Tech fan. He's the biggest Texas Tech fan.
There's an oilman out in West Texas, but Kim's in that same category.
Okay, here's what I'll say about Kim. So he has his big party every year. Like if he wants to get one of these guys out there, there's nothing stopping him now. No. You just go to Open Doors and say, hey, come on out and hang out and have some Texas Beef House steaks and
some Rocky Patel
and meet my Texas Tech friends.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to tell Kim how to do that until Open Doors partners with us.
I don't know if I don't know if he'll mind me saying this, but Kim has been incredibly giving with my brother's birthday back in July and what he did to set that up, and he'll always remember that till the day he's not here anymore. But then Garrett, Jack. Emery, and Levi. You guys got a little gift from him, huh?
We did. We got a gift card. Greatly appreciate that. I elected to get my Pittsburgh Pirates hat with it. So thank you, Kim. I got a fly Pittsburgh Pirates hat.
The We Are Family one or just
I'll wear it tomorrow. I'll let you see it. It's pretty nice.
No, I'd like to. Okay, do that, please. Tim Brando's got that We Are Family one in the background.
It's not like that one.
So I would not have sent this at all to be on the show, but since you guys just mentioned the Pittsburgh Pirates, Garrett, I'm going to send you.
I saw this, Paul.
A hot dog that they have.
To me, it looks like a bunch of dumplings on it.
It's got pierogies on it.
What the hell is that? That's potatoes, right?
Yeah. So here you go.
I saw that.
I'm sending you the tweet of this.
Okay.
This hot dog
Tracy
that
Fisher,
has pierogies, pot roast, and pickles and grilled onions on it. And
you know what I'd do if I had one of those? I would be immediately.
You wouldn't be knocking my bidets anymore. That's for sure. No. I'll tell you that.
Open Doors, by the way. Yes, the founder is a Husker. Absolutely, we've had him on the show from back in the day, back when that first started.
You know what? He was one of the few people, or his son, that also runs the company, was one of the few people that we met in person at the Super Bowl in Tampa. If you remember.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we were some of the only idiots that went there.
We were one of 17 people on Radio Row.
We were there, and we were. It was us and like two other people from out of state, and everybody else was just within driving distance.
All right. This is a hot dog, but when I looked at this, I thought it was like a tray with dumplings on it.
Yeah, it does, but it's got pierogies, which are delicious. I love a good pierogi. I haven't had one in very, very long. And then
Paul, you're gonna taste the food.
Oh yeah.
Is there a potato you don't like? Sweet?
No, I love sweet potatoes. Okay. Come on, like you only live twice. So
those are different, like a green color.
Well, no, that's the pickles, the house-made pickles they've got there.
Oh, okay.
Love a good house-made pickle. And then there's pyros. It's a little bit too much and too many tastes for me.
What is a house-made pickle? The ones that are in that jar that they.
Well, it's not. They just don't go and buy some plastic and throw it on there. They make
I had
their
a
own
plastic
pickles.
pickle the other day.
And
on
then plastic
sandwiches.
pickles
Very
are good, but
Yeah.
they make their own pickles.
I still like the sweet ones better.
Yeah.
I have a surprise. Here, y'all go for this.
Okay. BYU tight end Isaac Rex with us on 365 Sports at Pro Days here in Frisco with the Big 12. And a viewer of our show.
I am a viewer. I'm a subscriber on YouTube. I check you guys out all the time, especially the conference realignment. Whole fiasco back in the day.
Oh.
You guys were on top of it. Any rumor you guys heard, you guys were covering it. And so I loved watching it. It was awesome.
There we go.
There we go.
He is my favorite college football prospect
Yeah.
for the NFL draft.
Yeah.
I had no idea when he walked up to us that he was that much of a fan and a viewer. So, Isaac, I know you're watching now. Thank you very much for your support of the show. All right. So go back to that picture, Garrett. I want to go back to this picture. It almost looks like, what are those? We've got meat inside of them.
Looks like a dumpling. Is that what you're talking about?
That's a pierogi. It's got potatoes.
No,
in
it's
it.
potato. But okay, that's what I'm saying. It looks like a dumpling you'd get at P.F. Chang's, and
Yeah.
I've learned how to make them too. But it also looks like one of those meat cakes or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got pot roast underneath it.
Yeah, I know.
So then there's pot roast there.
No,
and
who the
there's-
hell's gonna? I'm seriously, no one. Like I watch, what's his name? Guy Fieri. We've had him on, and he goes around.
Andrew Zimmern. We've had
Same
him.
guy.
We've had him. We've had Adam Richman. Man versus food.
Okay, but yes, and usually at the Super Bowl, there is no human being, not Larry Allen, nobody that could just turn that thing over and eat it.
No.
There's no way.
No.
That's a waste of space.
So my college roommate Stacy, when he came here, we went to the Rangers game. He got the gigantic
Hot
2-foot
dog?
hot dog
Yeah,
that they have, and it's changed names a couple times depending on the player. I think now it's called the Bombi because that's the big power hitter.
Yeah.
Then it was called. I can't remember, but it was named after the. So yeah, but now they have the big gigantic. He had it, and he finished. I would say 85% of it, and then it got cold.
Yeah,
and it wasn't good anymore.
I mean,
See,
why
that's
not
the other
just
thing.
why
You
not
gotta
just
share.
get two decent sized whatever you want to put on the chili?
Why don't you just get here's the thing. This is too much of like a Golden Corral buffet for me where you can't make a decision on what you want. So
That looks like you would have,
get pierogies or get a hot dog, but all three
That's
to
like
me.
that's like a serving tray at a junior league deal.
Yeah. It's also like,
but we haven't even discussed the mascot in the background.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Is that Kermit?
No, it's like a bird.
It's like a
a
bird.
green
I
Is
heard
that Big
Pittsburgh's.
Bird?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
the Pirates don't have a.
Is that the
Pirates have a
Phillies?
bird?
Are we sure this is Pittsburgh and not
Yeah, it's
Philadelphia?
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because it's PNC Park. So yeah.
No,
Well,
yeah, he's
that
got
guy-
a Pittsburgh jersey on.
Yeah, that Philadelphia mascot. He's a character now. All right. So, all right, Kehlani, what if those dumplings are filled with horse meat? What am I trying to think of those meat pies that look like that? I'm trying to think. I'm not a big
Like
fan
the
of
Natchitoches meat pies?
No.
Oh, they have those like Jamaican meat pie things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got the word meat is in the description of the food of what those look like. That's just too much. But man, there was a time I would have attacked it. Pot stickers, keep shopping. I am a gyoza pot stickers aficionado. Thank you very much. From my days when I lived in Japan for 4 years, and now there's a machine I saw on Twitter, and most of those are just like fake, that actually allows you to take the circular gyoza wrap, which is thinner than a pot sticker wrap, and you put a little bit, like a spoon or whatever, full about that much. Wait a minute, where are we at here? Inside the wrapping, you put it on this machine, you turn the machine on, and like 8 or 10 or 12 at a time, it'll go whoop, it comes out already tucked, pinched on the edges, which usually is the hardest part of making dumplings. You never know what we might hit and talk about on this show. 365 Sports. Coming up at 5:30, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. What have we not hit? Oh, when we come back, when was the last time the NCAA men's basketball tournament, I'll let you guys look, I'll see if anyone can answer this. When was the last time that the men's basketball tournament had a repeat championship game. For example, Team X and Team Y, and the next year, Team X and Team Y. How often and when was the last time that occurred, and how rare it is for that to ever happen? That and more next. This is 365 Sports.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Craig is at Baylor football practice. He'll be back here momentarily. We've pretty much hit all the bullet points, and I'll put this out there. We did have discussion on the women's regional finals, is what I call them, the Elite Eight last night with UConn. You know, Gino has had, what is this, his 23rd Final Four. What they did over the years, 11 national titles, is stupid good. They were incredible. And then they kind of, with Paige Beckers, she's been injured on and off. She had 28 or 9 last night in the win against USC. Southern Cal, by the way, is who I've always referred to them. And I have sometimes USC fans, and in fact, Roger Dodge is a USC fan. I've always said Southern Cal. And I've just always said Southern Cal. And I would sometimes have people, that's not what I'm called. They've now embraced that. Have you seen the jerseys the women were wearing?
I didn't see it.
Southern Cal. So that was a little bit interesting. But UConn women winning, and then Iowa winning. And the game, if you want to give us your thoughts, and I saw a couple of you that jumped into the chat room early, and you wanted to, and one of the comments in the chat room, and I don't remember the exact name of the viewer, was, listen, we know why people hate Angel Reese. And he never said it, or she. But I got a feeling I know where you were going. I don't. Some people might not like Angel Reese because she's cocky, arrogant. Maybe they don't like her because she's really good too. Maybe they don't like her because she plays at LSU. Maybe they don't like her because of her hairstyle or whatever. But I've seen a little bit of the flash about racism involved. You know, it just seems like everything we go to now, there's got to be something to do with racism. Angel Reese is outspoken. And with that, as I said earlier in the show, is going to feel like when you go down, you're going to go down. People are going to not like you. They're going to wait for you to lose, like Ali or the Lakers or the Yankees or the Cowboys. And in this case, she was out there. I don't know how she would have reacted last night had they beaten Iowa. I know some of you think you do. I don't know how. Would it have been like it was last year? I don't know that in the national championship game. But I know that I know that she was emotional. Some people thought that she was full of it, and some people thought, man, did I just lose my audio? Oh, am I on?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
And then some people thought that she was like, stop. You can't have it both ways. I don't care how you feel, but I do if you want to give us your opinions on that. And Alan, Juju Watkins is a good story. Baylor had them down to the wire in the Sweet 16. So, Alan Williams had this. Alan, I'm not going to say you cheated because you had the ability to go look for the answer. Here's a list. David Warlock. This is interesting to me. Maybe not you. You want to know one thing that makes the Division I men's basketball championship so unique. This is how far you have to go back to find the most recent matchups, repeat matchups in the finals of major sporting events. The NFL took 4 years for Kansas City and San Francisco to meet again. College football playoff, Alabama, Georgia, 17 and 21. Go down the list, the NBA, the WNBA, World Women's Basketball, Major League Baseball, the Red Sox and Cardinals in 04 and 13. Hockey, Penguins and Wings in 08 and 09, back-to-back years. But the last time the men's basketball tournament had back-to-back same finalists was in 1962, Ohio State, Cincinnati. Paul, who played for any of those two teams? And I'm thinking I know at least maybe 3 or 4 of these names.
For any of the two teams in Ohio
State, Cincinnati in 1962 when they met in 61 and 62. I'm guessing.
I have no idea.
Oscar Robertson.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not so sure, and again, this is old school, but he was a hell of a player. Jerry Lucas was on that Ohio State team. And they played back-to-back years to play for the national championship.
Let's see. He was drafted to the NBA in 1960.
Who was?
Oscar Robertson.
Well, the hell with you.
He played from 57 to 60.
All right, I was wrong then.
Okay.
It was a good name. He played at Cincinnati. I was close.
Jerry Lucas.
Jerry Lucas might have been earlier, too.
Okay. Jerry Lucas is right after, but he would have been on Cincinnati in 62.
He was what?
He would have been on the team in 62.
Okay, there we go. Jerry Lucas. I thought Oscar Robertson, but Oscar maybe one of the most not underrated, but one of the guys that people forget about when it comes to could do everything. Score, rebound, assist, kind of like Nate Archibald, Tiny Archibald back in the day in the 70s and also in the 80s. So there you are with that. J.G. Nielardo, when you win consistently in sports, the complaints decrease regardless of personality. When you win consistently in sports, the complaints decrease regardless of personality.
Is that in regard to
I think Angel Reese?
Yeah, I mean that's true. Like people get away with a lot of stuff when they're winning, right? So when they win, they complain less, you complain less. That you hide personality flaws. And look at any coach who's recently retired or been kind of forced out the door that was cantankerous. Look. Bobby Knight could have choked 1 million dudes if they were still winning the title. I mean, that's the thing about Bobby Knight in Indiana. And that doesn't make it right at all. You shouldn't be attacking guys just because they question you. But like, that's where things work. As soon as the money train stops pumping to the station, coming into the station, then your antics are less valuable. Yep. So that's why you always have to be careful. And the people who make it the longest in most places are the ones, who are nicer to people, who treat people better and have less flaws, because the minute that you have, because if you got people turning on you, and the minute that you get an opportunity to walk out the door, or they can send you out the door, they will. And I'm not speaking out of turn, and I'm not speaking specifically about any one person, but I can just tell you that, as much as Kim Mulkey won, I don't think people miss interacting with her at Baylor because she was cantankerous. And so while they would have put up with that for a very long time, if she kept winning, they would have continued to put up with it. Nobody's sad about it, in the way that they would be if a nicer coach, like if Scott Drew, when Scott Drew retires, which I assume that's what he's going to do from Baylor because that's the kind of guy he is, there will be genuine
Please
sad.
put a time on that so people don't panic with what
Yeah,
you're
but
saying.
a long time. Like if he retires, there'll be genuine sadness. If he just left, had that Louisville nonsense been true, do you know how devastated everyone would be? Yeah. And that's just the case. And, I can think of 100 other coaches that were kind of that way, where it's, look, Jimmy Lake at Washington didn't win and was an a-hole when he was there. So you hit both the buttons of you're not winning enough.
You hit the you're out the door lottery button.
There's a very famous YouTube video from way back where a guy did the hot, crazy scale. If girls are this hot, you can be this crazy. I think they did it on How I Met Your Mother.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What is it called?
The hot crazy scale. So if you are this attractive, you can be this crazy. And there's a line, part of the graph you don't. I'll send you the video. It's old school, but it's very old.
No. If you're hot, but you're bet crazy,
but people will put up with you because you think, I'm never going to date a girl this hot again. When really, you probably will. If you can get one, you can get another. It's not an outlier, but that's just what people think. It's the same way, I'm sure, with dudes. But
Alan Williams on YouTube, the Hot Crazy Matrix is awesome.
Yeah, you can go see it. It was very funny. The guy was very dry in his delivery. It was really well done. But it's the same way on, if you are this successful, you can be, you can have quirks up to a certain point. And some of those quirks might be that you're a little bit difficult to deal with. But the minute you're not, then the quirks become more important than, why are we putting up with this?
Yeah. Okay, let's say you're a salesperson.
Jimbo Fisher.
Yep. No. Let's say you're a salesperson. You bring in like millions of dollars, or in some cases, a few $1,000, several $1,000s, or hundreds of $1,000s. Your owner or whoever runs the company, they're going to be a lot more lenient with you, even if you do some crazy bad stuff, because it's about the bottom line. But once your numbers slip, unless there's criminal stuff, but once your numbers slip, they're not going to put up with your crazy or your arrogance or the way you treat people nearly like they did maybe 5 or 10 years before that.
No, absolutely not. That's just how it works. And so, that's the winning is a cure-all. Winning is also a mask on things, and when all of those things come undone, you get to see all the warts behind the scenes. So you're better off just, and I know that I go to this a lot, but he's a great example of it, and he's my favorite, is Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden treated people right. Look, Tom Osborne treated people right, and look, neither of them were perfect. Neither of them were perfect. They had things that they did, but at the end of it all, nobody was, oh, thank God that they're not around here anymore. They were difficult to deal with. That people are like, I know it's time for him to retire, but gosh, I sure do miss the old guy around here. That's what you want. That's the legacy you want to leave. Not like, I don't give a crap how many titles we win. The fact that person will never yell at me again is worth it.
Yeah, well, I don't know this for a fact. I have been told this, and it's not because somebody, like one person told me this, but the first year after there was a change at women's basketball, that there were some that were relieved and some that never, they're like, okay, good. Even now, there are a lot of fans, man, they love that winning because people love to win. And sometimes you trump that, and if you treat people poorly, but you're winning, like you said, that all, and for those who don't know, that divorce came from setting something up with what Kim did and acting like it was innocent or really not something she was doing, and the next thing you know, she's gone. And we've been down this road before. And unfortunately for me, not really unfortunately, one of the highest rated or watched segments we've ever had was early on in this show when we moved to the studio about what the story, the backloading of what I knew when people said maybe I didn't. And again, like I know I'm right. I know I'm right. Ram FTW. Gino did his greatest coaching with missing half of the team, so many season-ending injuries. I think he has. I think this year with Paige Beckers, but not just her, others who have been hurt. Let's see. Somebody mentioned the Ohio State-Cincinnati was 60 and 60. No, it was 61 and 62. And I sent the numbers out for that. Let's see. Garrett, have you seen the numbers yet?
I have not. Let me do a quick scan of Twitter and ESPN.
The women's basketball tournament. Here it is. 12.3 million viewers for the game on ESPN Monday night between LSU and Iowa. Last year's championship game was 9.9 million on ABC and ESPN2. Best college hoops game ever on ESPN channels. 12.3 million. And now you wonder, I saw Bob Thompson make this note. Paul, remember when women's basketball, there was a thought about separating them, having their own TV contract? Mm-hmm. And now you wonder if ESPN or ABC or both regret that they didn't do it that way because of the numbers. The men, we told you, the one that was Duke and NC State was like 15 million. The most hyped, anticipated, that doesn't mean there weren't some great games in the past, but game that was on TV. Paul, look, Garrett, put us on the two-shot. Paul watched women's basketball last night.
I did. And look, Amanda said, I kind of want to watch this game. And I was like, yeah, I do too. I mean, I really do. I was intrigued. The championship game last year was fun to watch. And again, it's getting better. I'm not cocky enough to think that all my complaints were valid, but my complaints were, there are some things that are wrong about the narrative here, and they need to be, if you want to start dealing in the facts of why these things are the way they are, then it's going to get better. And for the most part, those things are happening. One, I also think it's really going to help especially to attract women viewers, that when you have a pre- and post-game show that's not two dudes and then one lady who used to coach or play.
Right.
Like when it's women who played women's basketball talking about women's basketball, that's a better pre- and post- and halftime show than it would be. And I can tell you that because I know that there's a lot, it doesn't bother me, but I know it bothers a lot of men viewers when you've got the opposite on a sport that they like. So why would the inverse not be true for a women's sport? Having people who played the game, they're hosting the show is better. I think it makes it a lot better. I think ESPN's crew was fantastic last night, all the way up and down the boards. And you've got better talent. It's growing. There's different eras. And the first era of the WNBA was probably like the Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain era of the NBA where, there's some really amazing players, the Teresa Witherspoons and Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie's, Rebecca Lobos of the world that were great players, but nobody really knew about it. And then
the media coverage was very minimal.
You had to get Bird and Magic in the NBA to where they said, well, maybe we should do this live.
Yep.
That wasn't even live. There's a steal by Bird that was tape delayed. We didn't get to see that live as viewers. So then it changes. So I think women's basketball is on a similar track now. Although for a long time they were trying to put themselves into markets where there are places, viewership that was never going to be. And now that they're starting to find it, and there's more girls playing basketball for longer, and people have gone through, I think that
it was 34-30 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
There have been a few women's games where they've been able to race out to a bunch of stuff, but it was a very competitive game. There was a lot of intrigue. There were the personalities involved, the talent level of players involved. Now, can they continue that? And it probably will be able to build on that. But 12.3 million viewers for that Iowa-LSU game. There was hey, don't think the ring thing wasn't part of that. The Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry, even though both downplayed that, listen, they'll both take each other's limbs to win a game. And I that's not what they said, but you get my drift. So good for them. Great for them. And I had the game on watching the Rangers. And then also I had the women's basketball game. I've got two big flat screens, one that's downstairs but on a big, up here, and the one right in front of me too. And I flipped it back and forth depending on what was going on at the time. All right, this is 365 Sports.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely. And I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Pioneer Steel & Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel & Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel & Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Craig is at practice, so again, Off the Radar is kind of on a hiatus, so to speak, until Beta wraps up their spring football. He'll be back with us here momentarily. So Washington State, we know that Oregon State, Washington State, man, they can't get a break. The coach at Montana State, who was going to take the job, has now decided to stay at Montana State. Longer-term deal, which will be announced at some point today. The Wazoo coaching search now continues.
I just wonder how much they're going to see this now that they're in the situation they're in where, yes, they have money for the next 2 years, but after that, who knows what's going to happen and where they're going to have to tighten the belt. And I hope for Washington State and Oregon State that they make it through and they don't have to do that. But if you're looking for a more stable thing, even Montana State, like right now, you know that they're going to be where they're going to be, and you're not going to have to worry about some kind of, drastic shift, in the economics of it. So, yeah, I hope that Washington State can find somebody and that somebody doesn't leave in 2 years if they have to, and it wouldn't be men's basketball or football that gets the belt tightening first, but the belt tightening will go everywhere, and then eventually when you start losing that kind of money or you have that kind of income that's not coming in, they'll start at the bottom, but eventually the glass will fill to the top, right? And it'll be there where it's like, okay, it's your turn. You're on this level. What are we, spending money on that we have to do cheaper now? And that's where it's scary.
Yeah, I agree. So they turn around their AD moves from across state. That was a punch in the gut. Some bad feelings about Pat Chun leaving for Washington. And because right now it's, you don't know. What is the future? And even with that, like you said, with the financial, what would it be? Windfall because of the other schools who are leaving, giving a lot of their money back to the conference, which goes into the pockets of Washington State and Oregon State. So I told you about LSU and Iowa. Which of these comparisons surprises you the most from Austin Karp? What else did Iowa, LSU, and the $12.3 million top? The Purdue and Tennessee game in the Elite Eight on Sunday.
Wow.
$9.5 million for the 2024. I didn't even know I really do know that there's award shows. I don't watch any of them because it's gotten just so out of whack, in my opinion.
That doesn't surprise me.
Okay. Why even I wouldn't even have listed that. It's higher than the final round of the 2023 the Masters with John Rahm winning. Was it Scheffler? No, Rahm. Rahm won the Masters in dramatic fashion. The Masters. The final round of the Masters. Mm-hmm. 4 of the 5 games from the 2023 NBA Finals, which I mean, they're going to get a new contract. They're going to get a new TV deal. They're working on that. But every single Arizona Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers World Series game.
Yeah. And look, there was so much sauce going into it because it was the rematch, because it's Caitlin Clark. Now, look, when Caitlin Clark leaves, they're going to see probably a little bit of a ratings dip because she's Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
Guess who else has seen that? Any sport that's lost a major once-in-a-lifetime star for a little while until the next one comes along. Look, there was the dip between Michael and Kobe, right? The PGA wakes up every morning hoping that they can find the genie that makes Tiger Woods 27 years old in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they want.
Because I guarantee you, and this is not to take away from this, if Tiger was on, again, if he was still competitive and was on the final round and he was out there and he was, he was on the prowl, that number would have been higher.
Yeah. So, but, and everybody goes through it. But the hope is for women's basketball, and I think that this is what will happen is, yes, Caitlin, they will not get the same kind of, especially, game-by-game numbers that Caitlin Clark plays in when she is not playing in those games. And hopefully for the WNBA, they get those same people who watched her at Iowa will watch her in the WNBA. The WNBA is really hoping for that. They really need it. But if you can level off at a higher plateau than before Caitlin Clark came on the scene, then that's a win. What you don't want to do is to drop like, oh, well, Caitlin Clark's gone. I don't care at all anymore. No, what you want to do is build every time. And then when the next big star comes along, you build on that last plateau and on and on and on. That's what successful sports do.
I bet if they played next year at this time and Caitlin Clark's gone, that number would be just like very low. Again, here's what I wonder what this though means. 12.3 million, most watched women's basketball game of all time. Do you know that In 1983, the same year NC State, Jim Valvano, in 1983, the USC Louisiana Tech National Championship game that was on CBS drew 11.83 million. Cheryl Miller was the star, and I'm not so sure Kim Mulkey wasn't playing for Louisiana Tech.
I think she was. My Apple Watch just told me that was the case. So
Your Apple Watch?
It heard you talking and gave me information.
So the 83 game, so even that's 40 years ago, 41 years ago, they had a huge number. It was on a major network rather than ESPN, which I know is people think of that as a major network. 24% increase from a year ago in the championship game. The anticipation, the showdown, the collision course of that game. And then imagine, would it have been higher if it was the semifinal game? The national championship game, probably would be. But that's incredibly good numbers for women's basketball, and you wonder what that means moving forward. Is UConn and Iowa, NC State, and South Carolina going to bring any of those type of numbers? Caitlin Clark will have there'll be a spillover here, but it's not going to be like the same anticipation.
Well, also you had a generational villain in Kim Mulkey, right? Like and people are watching because they want.
They're known as the villains with Mulkey and Reese and others.
I mean it's fine. I wish that they would. Actually, I think I told Kim this personally when she had a problem with the media before. Just embrace who you are. Like, don't let them get in your head. Just if this is who you are, be who you are. Be a villain, fine. Sports, we need villains. It's great. I don't mind the villains, but I'd be lying if I told you there wasn't some part of me watching the game to see if LSU lost last night, not to see Iowa win. I mean, it was that. So, yeah, I mean, that's good. When you have somebody that people pull for or pull against, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Especially if they're just pulling against you because you're kind of mean, then it's not, it's not really that bad. Like, just go ahead and move on.
Ellen Williams, 12.5 million viewers or not, Mac and Linda are glad to be free of her. She brings a lot of heat on herself and her program, good or bad, but there's no question. It's like what they call that Q rating, moves the needle. All right, the top, I'm not going to do all of them, but the NFL does a performance-based pay distribution. This means that you outperform when you were drafted. Mm-hmm. This means you outperform if you weren't drafted. For example, an undrafted free agent. John Simpson, an offensive lineman from Clemson, received over $970,000. He was a fourth-round pick for his performance based on all of what they do, grading him. He was the number one player based on, this is a bonus pool, $974,000 he got for a performance-based pay distribution. We go down the list. I'm not going to be able to mention all of them because there's 25. But here's Tariq Woolen. Paul, where did he play?
Tariq Woolen.
UT San Antonio.
UC, okay, yes.
Fifth-round pick for Seattle. He got an extra $839,000. That's the 10th highest. Brandon Stevens from SMU, a safety with Baltimore, $800,000. Terrell Bernard, linebacker, Baylor with the Bills, got an extra $777,000.
If he can make it through the year completely healthy, that dude's going to be in the Pro Bowl. Yep. He had, and Buffalo struggled when he was out. When he got hurt, they missed him. Yeah, he's a player now.
Steelers offensive lineman, tackle, Dan Moore out of A&M, got an extra $740,000. Brock Purdy, the last pick of the draft, right? From Iowa State. The 49ers, he got $739,000 plus in performance-based pay. I love this, what they do here. So this is based on your position, your performance. That's a bunch of money. 25 guys of $738,000 or more, and that doesn't include all the other ones below them. So that's pretty darn cool. Those are the schools. At A&M Commerce, Kadir Kahoy from Miami, a cornerback, undrafted free agent, earned an extra $880,000 with that performance-based incentive. So there we are with that. Now, will either of the semifinals or the championship game in the women's Final Four, the semifinals are Friday, outdraw that game?
Well, Scotty B mentions that Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers could be really good.
No,
now, there's not a years long, trash talk rivalry, after all that, that got picked up in the media like last year, but it's still, before we really knew, how good Caitlin Clark was, the buzz around college basketball was about Paige Beckers before she got hurt. So
as the next star at UConn.
Yeah. And so, and she's still a star at UConn. Yeah. Now that she's healthy, she's got him in the Final Four, which is a place that Gino hasn't been to as much the last few years. Another thing that's great for women's college basketball. Look, it was awesome to see, and congratulations to the team that won 7,000 games in a row like they did.
UConn?
Yes.
It was 100 plus, wasn't it?
To win all those games in a row was great. But eventually, parity is what gets people excited because that's when you get better things. That's why the men's tournament is so great. The fact that 16s can beat ones now, that's a great thing. The 15s beat twos, and,
there was a time, and I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, because I actually remember asking Coach Mulkey about this. There were no upsets in women's basketball. You might have a team that may win the semifinal game, but there were no
12-5s. There were none of those
If there
things.
was, it was on one finger.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. Jeez. Good for them.
And now you're going to see those things happen more and more, and it makes the tournament better. But I know that there were many times where I knew that we weren't going to see a competitive game until the Elite Eight.
No, yeah, you could pencil that in.
We were just going to be traveling around watching. It might as well have been watching the Globetrotters and the Generals. Seriously, that's what it felt like. There was that game. The first game I saw in Bowling Green, I half expected Brittany Griner to give the ref a wedgie and run away and throw a bucket of water at him, because that's the only thing that would have made that game entertaining at that point.
Yep.
That would have been it.
The first time I remember, at least I watched a game in 2011 in the regional final up in Dallas, was when Texas A&M with Gary Blair had lost to Baylor, 3 or 4 times that year, and then won that game, and that was Brittany's sophomore year. That was another one of those meltdown games. Sydney Colson and names like that were really, really good. And they had a DJ Burns type player for A&M's women. Mm-hmm. But the one that will always stick out to me was 2013 when Baylor was at Oklahoma City against Louisville, mm-hmm. and Louisville, that was their, not only was that their arrival in the women's basketball, because they've been good pretty much ever since, when they beat Brittany and hit a bunch of threes, which we talked about as the Achilles of Kim Mulkey teams. When they lose, it's going to be because somebody can pop the threes. And I do think because of Van Lift, she just couldn't guard her. And last year, she's a fiery girl, and she's a firecracker, and she's also sometimes a bomb waiting to happen. Alexis Morris was just really good in that game last year. All right, John Wilner just put this up, and then John McClain is next. Schools in need of a president/chancellor. Arizona, UCLA, Cal, Stanford, and Colorado. What do they have in common?
Pac-12 departees. Well.
And he goes, I expect 3 or 4 more from the Pac-12 campuses, currently a part of the Pac-12, to announce retirements in the next 18 to 24 months.
I would not be surprised.
Absolute turnaround.
Arizona State, I would not be surprised. Because I would not be surprised there. That one, just because he held out for so long. I was like, no. He was one of the ones that was like, no, $50 million, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those that was kind of like Schultz and whatever when they had they're putting their foot down.
Yeah, look, their AD already out. All those things changed. There's a revamp coming in Phoenix, where are they? Scottsdale?
Who?
Tempe. There we go. Thank you. Sorry. I was trying to think of the suburb that they were in.
Arizona State?
Yeah.
Tempe. I lived there in the 60s, yeah.
I couldn't. It was all around me. It's like Glendale, Mesa, Surprise.
Tucson.
Yeah.
The Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
More. So there we are with the numbers back from the women's game, which I was, a lot of times people roll their eyes or whatever. No, this was going to be an alpha. Dan Meister. I hope I got that right, Dan. I don't know how you get Meister out of there. Miter? Yeah. I thought he said Meister.
Oh.
There's no S.
Yeah.
Does that mean that when Caitlin Clark enters the WNBA, their numbers will double?
Not necessarily, but it should help them, It should help them. And look, NIL has helped us for Caitlin Clark as well, in that she is everywhere. She is everywhere. As in, Brittany Griner, who I think is the last women's college basketball star you can kind of put on that level. Well, there was no NIL then. So
Breanna Stewart is probably in that.
Her and
UConn.
Breanna Stewart, they couldn't just be everywhere. She couldn't be on State Farm commercials and every other thing that Caitlin Clark is, Gatorade and all that. So she's everywhere already before she gets there. So it's a huge benefit to the WNBA that people already know her and they've seen her and they continue to see her because
she's a household name now.
Yeah, she's less where Brittany Griner was. She became more of a household name among sports fans. Same with Breanna Stewart, but at the end of it, if you were not already a women's basketball fan or knew about it, you weren't going to know who that was. Now, try to watch any channel anytime all day long and not see Caitlin Clark. Even if it's not a sports.
No, whatever it might be. Here's one of the things that I thought, again, I don't know the writer. I know it's one of the two names, but I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to be wrong on who it is. But I know both of them as columnists. And when Caitlin Clark in this game's going on with Angel Reese, they tried to make this something that it wasn't. One, because they completely whiffed on why it was the reason. And two, they were trying to make it racial. And neither one of these guys are someone that I've ever seen just go off on some kind of tangent. Well, why is Caitlin Clark getting all these commercials and they mentioned a previous player wasn't? Because they couldn't.
Yeah.
It was illegal at the time. They'd be ineligible. The team would be out of the damn tournament.
Look, I can tell you, the reason that Baylor did not have Brittany Griner suspended is sitting right here. I'm going to brag about that until the day I die. No one involved in it remembers or knows.
I was in the car.
You were in the car, but we
let's say it.
Yeah, so
we're on our way down to Temple or Killeen,
and our promotions person at the time, Casey, said, "Hey, you got to hear this crazy spot that the hip hop station's got going for this promo they have." And in the spot, it says, "Hey, you got to come out to this event." And you all know it's Brittany Griner's birthday, and it's $20 at the door, and she'll be signing autographs all night long. And I went, honestly, and I'll just say it, I went, holy shit! We're Baylor's flagship station. One of the stations in our cluster is running a promotion with a college athlete saying there's a cover charge, and she'll be signing autographs. Dear God,
she would not have been doing that for free.
No, absolutely not. And so we immediately got on the phone with Baylor and said, hey, here's what's going on. Then we had to call our station and be like, you've got to pull this right now or we're going to lose a lot of money.
No, we're not going to lose any money.
Oh.
We would have lost, the station would have been burned to the ground.
Yeah, it would have been bad.
Yeah,
would have been really bad. Again,
in that promotion could have gone on and nobody would have known.
Ring, but it would have been, and it probably would have, there's a chance it would have gone off and nobody would know. But not a small chance. It would have, a small chance that happens because of the way that college athletics works. Believe you me, 90 miles in either direction down the road, whether it be A&M or Texas at the time, if they found out that Brittany Griner was doing autograph signings and all it would have taken is somebody taking a picture of it and putting it online going, I got Brittany Griner's autograph at this promotion that she did, all over.
Yep. Craig is back from practice. Anything in particular? Just practice is practice, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's kind of the same old, just like being out there and just seeing what's what, seeing guys that aren't working out and possibly why and those types of things. But, yeah, that's nothing too substantial to report back, just a regular old spring practice.
All right, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. Craig, the number for the women's game last night was $12.3 million.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter right before I walked in here. That's great. That's a great number. I'm sure there's tweets breaking down like how significant that is. This is the highest rated audience, blah, 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 since this time and whatnot. But I'll see all that here during the commercial break, I guess. And saw that, that's only like 2 million, maybe less than 2 million from that big NC State Duke number.
15, like 1 or 3 or 5, yeah.
But regardless, that's a huge number for the women, and that particular matchup, just not sure that it can be replicated moving on. Like, I wonder if South Carolina and UConn can match that or what. But that LSU-Iowa game had a lot of interesting storylines and a lot of interesting characters. I think that helped it, and I think just in general that's helped the entire game. So hopefully that carries forward into the last couple rounds here, and I'm sure there will be a lot of eyes on Caitlin Clark, especially knowing that these could be her last games, these upcoming couple. So yeah, that's fantastic news for women's basketball, for college sports, and you just hope that it's the start of something and not a blip on the radar because it just happened to be a perfect storm. But I think it's definitely the start of something more so than maybe things we thought was the start of something, in years past.
All right, so $12.3 million. We mentioned the previous record was 1983 when it was Cheryl Miller in USC against Louisiana Tech, and a girl named Kim Mulkey was playing point guard for them. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza, the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. You can go online, marcos.com, pizza lovers. Get it? 5 locations in the Waco area, Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and Robinson. What is your favorite pizza? They'll make it for you. You tell them what you want, but also online there are specials every day with code words if you do order online. And then, of course, you can go and pick up yourself, or they will deliver to wherever you are in the specific range of one of the 5 stores, or wherever you live with all of our audience around the country. If there's a Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock, the local owner. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Experience the adrenaline-pumping performance and cutting-edge technology of Dodge. From the sleek and stylish 2023 Charger to the performance and muscle of a Challenger to the bold and rugged Durango. During Dodge Power Shot Days, we're offering amazing deals and special incentives that will make driving a new Dodge even more exhilarating. Don't miss out on these exclusive savings. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco today and unleash the power of Dodge.
Come by, let's be friends.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Are you ready to elevate your Waco experience to a whole new level? Look no further than the Baylor Club, where you can indulge in one-of-a-kind luxury and unwind in our exclusive lounge area. Located in the heart of McClain Stadium, this elite club offers 5-star member atmosphere for all your work and play needs. With a master culinary team and outstanding hospitality, we take pampering to a whole new level. Weddings, milestones, businesses, and birthdays. A stadium roaring with Bear spirit featuring stunning city skyline skyline views, the Baylor Club truly has it all. The Baylor Club is the destination for Baylor basketball pregame meals, beverages with this special membership offer. If you mention Sikkim 365 or 365 Sports Radio, just ask for John or Devin for details. For interest in membership or your next private event, call 254-710-8080 or Google Baylor Club Linktree for more information on menus, calendars, upcoming special events. Say yes to the Baylor Club today. 254-710-8080 or Google Baylor Club Linktree.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We will have Hall of Famer John McClain with us in just a moment. We brought up a couple of notes about the ratings. Also, we had a little note about baseball. The Rangers lost Josh Young last night to a broken wrist. Is going to be out probably a couple of months or so as he continues to have just some of the most unfortunate things happen. So that's going to hurt them. They are in Tampa. They will play the Astros coming up next after a pretty nice start. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. John, were you in attendance for the no-hitter, or was that even in Houston?
Yes. It was here, but I was watching women's basketball, Kim Mulkey versus Iowa. What a game, highest rated history right now. There's more people talking about the women Final Four than there are the men. I'll be watching every game, but I kept up with the Astros, who absolutely stunk it up in their first 4 games here. Lost all 4 of the Yankees. Bullpen blew every game, and then they put out a pitcher who now Blanco, who'd only made 8 starts in his career, 30 years old, bounced around Astros in minor leagues the last 2 years. When they signed him in the Dominican Republic, he was working at a car wash. They got him for $5,000, and he comes out, throws 105 pitches, no hits to Blue Jays, 2 guys, two reach base, George Springer with 2 walks. It was an unbelievable performance at a time in which they were desperate to snap out of it because they continued to be terrible at Minute Maid Park going back to last season when they had a winning record. The Rangers humiliated them here, and then they start off 0-4. So all you got to do to win here is pitch a no-hitter.
Well, it's easy. Easy, John. No problem at all. What do you think about the Rashee Rice situation and what the NFL will do and what kind of suspension he could be facing?
You know, what an idiot. And what got me, and I've read every story, I've watched every video, I've watched the dash cam, I've watched other people's, they're selling it to TMZ. And what got me is bad enough to be racing and cause multiple car wrecks, but to get out and casually walk by and not check to see if anybody's hurt, any children, I think it's terrible. Right there on North Central, which we all know is one of the busiest freeways in the country. Whatever they can do to them, I hope they throw the book at them. Being young and dumb doesn't cut it anymore. And think of what could have happened, that carelessness and recklessness, and they're lucky somebody wasn't killed. And, he'll have the best attorney money can buy and probably claim he wasn't driving, and it shows him getting out of the car. But I think the league will definitely suspend him, and it's just a matter of how long it will be. And when they do announce the suspension, then he will appeal and try to get it reduced.
John, we are in the month of the NFL draft. It is finally truly upon us. What is the, biggest storyline in terms of the Houston Texans right now?
They traded their first-round pick, 23rd overall, the last 2 pieces of the Deshaun Watson trade, a 23 and a 4th-round pick this year. They traded for an extra 2 this year and a 2 next year because their needs are deep positions. The Texans need another defensive tackle. They need a corner. They need another receiver and a safety. But the 2 positions they need the most are corners. They have one starter, Derek Stingley Jr., back. He was great, except he's missed at least eight games, I believe. Let's see, 8 games as a rookie, and he missed some last season. And their other starter, Steven Nelson, I guess they're not going to bring him back because he's still unrestricted, so they've got to have more cornerbacks.
You know, the Rasheed Rice thing, there's video of all of that. Going back to that, if you don't mind. How much do you think, I don't know if evading arrest or obviously leaving the scene of a crime, how long of a suspension? You look like 4 games or 6 games or longer?
I think it could be if they find out he was driving, if they can prove he was driving, and multiple people got out of one side, maybe to show you couldn't tell he was driving. The car is registered to him, and so everybody just assumes he was driving. And so I could see 6 games if somebody'd been hurt worse. But they need to send a message to these idiots that continue to drive fast and speed and endanger other people. Go out in West Texas somewhere on I-10. Go to El Paso as fast as you want to go. But what's happened at Georgia, including the deaths in Georgia, and you still see players there in Athens racing, it boggles your mind and how stupid so many of them are. And people probably say, well, when you were young, you would have done dumb things like that if you'd had their money. But I never had, and you guys never had, people within a team telling you constantly what you can and can't do. If you need help, do this, and indoctrinating you into the real world when you're coming out of college. They just, kind of thumb their noses at it because they've been treated like royalty and they've gotten out of trouble so many times. So I can't wait to see how this plays out, whether he's in trouble legally. And from what I understand, the laws in Texas are really tough. If you are driving a car and you create an accident and you leave the scene of the crime.
John, how do you think it affects the Chiefs' draft plans?
I think they need a wide receiver anyway. They got Hollywood Brown, but what has Hollywood Brown done? As for a first-round pick, he hasn't been worth it. But if their Rice is developed into their best receiver, I think they're going to draft another one anyway because, people think Mahomes can work magic with anybody. Well, he has been able to work magic with a couple of guys, but there's others they haven't. But it's such a deep draft, Paul, with wide receivers. They don't need to use their pick at the bottom of the first round of Xavier Worthy. They can take another position like another corner and to make up for Snead, trading him to the Titans, and then get a receiver in the second or third round.
I was going to ask you about Snead because they put the franchise tag on him, but Tennessee, I guess, with too much for Kansas City to say no?
Well, they only gave a third-round pick and something else. They just didn't want to pay him that franchise money.
Okay.
And they weren't going to give him a multi-year deal. I read a deep dive on that team by a respected writer who pointed out they've been planning this for the last 2 years, knowing they could not play their great defensive tackle plus a great corner, so they've been drafting corners. And that's what you have to do. When you pay the quarterback the big bucks, something's got to come off that cap somewhere, and inevitably you better plan for the time when it comes. Like the Texans have another 3 years with C.J. Stroud, and then they could do a fifth, but they're going to extend him before that. But if they're going to win and bring in players right and left, they better do it while they got a lot of cap room.
Yeah, the franchise tag was 19.8 for the salary for Snead if he would have played for Kansas City this year. Yeah.
All right, John, how do the Cowboys move forward then with Dak Prescott?
They're going to redo his deal. They're going to lower the cap figure, and I think he'll be there. In fact, I read last week that despite what people are saying publicly, they're working behind the scenes to get an extension done. He's got him by the footballs. He can do whatever he wants. There's no way they're going to let Dak Prescott walk after next season with no compensation other than a compensatory third-round pick and then have to start over after they won another 12 games. And you might get lucky once with a quarterback in the fourth round. If Dak Prescott had Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and one of the greatest offensive lines in history, and Jay Novacek and and Johnson blocking. Would the Cowboys be better? Yes.
Yeah.
They need to work on getting more talent around him. And it's hard, because of the salary cap. CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons are going to cost record amounts, but you've got to find ways to maximize your opportunities while you have a quarterback. And that's why you keep redoing deals, pushing that cap on down the road, and hoping it keeps going up by record numbers.
So did the Cowboys miss their window?
Oh, no. No.
Okay.
Cowboys, if you think about, is there any team in the division better than them? I don't buy it. Philadelphia's good. Philadelphia's gotten rid of some really good players that I don't understand, like Hassan Reddick, 27 sacks the last 2 seasons. You think Prescott and the offensive coaches aren't happy he's gone? Washington Giants, no. San Francisco's always good. There are teams, but Cowboys' problem to me is they just need more talent. Now, for their line was so good for so long, now they're trying to make it better. They got to worry about that. And they've lost defensive players. But I know Cowboy fans don't want to hear this, and my family thinks I'm nuts. Dak is not the issue.
Yeah, there's people obviously would disagree with you in a pretty large group, but they had 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen together, even though Tyron Smith has been beaten up and no longer there. They had 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen around Dak. Ezekiel Elliott, who was obviously a highly ranked, highly picked running back. CeeDee Lamb. It's like it's not like he's got a bunch of just trash. It's I don't know, man. It's nuts.
Well, they wouldn't win 12 games every year if they had trash. The problem, as you guys know, is when they get in the playoffs, and I think McCarthy is just as responsible as anybody else because they tense up or something in the playoffs. But anyway, I think they'd be making a big mistake because there's no guarantee you're going to be looking at the Sam Darnolds of the world, Marcus Mariotas of the world, and hope keeping your fingers and toes crossed you can find another one in the 4th round.
It's always interesting. If in fact he was to hit the open market out of the 32 teams, what would be like 25, 26 or so that said, let's go get him?
They would, and that's what's going to happen next year. Let me ask you something as a fan of the Commanders. Do you want them to take Drake May or do you want them to take Jaden Daniels? Because the Cowboys are not going to be in that position to draft a quarterback that high without totally bombing out. Jerry Jones can't do that.
I am a big fan of Jaden Daniels, and I voted for him in the Heisman Trophy vote. I'm worried, though, about he's a little bit – I'm worried about the size. And I mean, they'll screw it up, John. New personnel guy, new general manager, all of that. I'm worried about them picking the wrong one because that's just what they've done.
Well, Daniels is certainly Cliff Kingsbury's kind of quarterback.
Yep.
If we look back at what he's done, so it'll depend on how much clout he's got in that room.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em Bears.
Sick 'em Bears. That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. Before we take the break and come back with the top 5, one of our sponsors of this show is GXG, and they just put this up. I just got the heads up from Jeremy Fudge. They have a spring game experience powered by Jeremy and GXG, a private tour of the Fudge Football Development Center, exclusive access to coaches and players, surprise musical guests, merchandise giveaways, and more. There's a number there. You can go to GXG. Remember, go to Baylor Bears /GXG for more. And a unique opportunity. Also, the tour, that brand new, it looks good. Fudge Football Development Center, which is now attached to what is the renovated and continues to be renovated indoor, the Allison Indoor. So there's a pretty neat deal. Jeremy Fudge just sent that to me. You can go if you want to have a special day, not just with the spring football game, but also much more.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good over there. It's coming together nicely. It looks like it's still on track to be done by, midsummer or so. There's some panels starting to go up on the outside, and so you're starting to see it all come together. I mean, the structure's been in place, but some of the outside or exterior work is starting to get situated as well to give you a better idea of what it's going to look like. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a total game changer for Baylor, and I don't know how it compares. It's certainly not the nicest facility in the country, you know, compared to what Alabama has or something, or Georgia or someone like that. But for what they've had and compared to probably most out there, it's going to be, you know, top of the line and really, really nice, and just a whole different feel from what it's been like my entire time here in Waco. I mean, with the connection to the I guess it's what do they call it? Not the field house. Is it the field house? What are they calling that building?
The Hires building.
No. The new building. It's
the Fudge Center, right?
Yeah, I thought there was like a name for it, but yeah, I mean, other than Fudge. But regardless, it's going to be a really cool setup when it's all said and done. So yeah, I'm very excited, and that's a cool opportunity for folks who want to see a little bit more.
The Fudge Football Development Center.
Center, yes.
And it's impressive. It's wrapped around and connected to the indoor, which means you can walk around. You know, people go.
It's going to be like a skywalkway where you walk and like look down and see what's going on in the indoor practice fields, and walk in the skyway into the rest of the building, which will have all the other essentials that they haven't had. I mean, the buildings don't connect here. It's not one massive complex like it is at a lot of other places. It's like a grouping of different people and different sports and whatnot in the Hires complex, and then you walk out and you walk down the sidewalk a little ways to an indoor, and the practice fields are right there, but there's nothing like interconnected that it's all under one roof right now.
Reminds me of Indianapolis, the way it's built. A lot of everything's in like tunnels, or what you call, like as you mentioned, walkways.
Yeah,
it's all connected.
This will just be all together. The whole thing, indoor football offices, everything will be all together, and so that's going to be really cool when it's all finished here in a few months.
All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is 365 Sports, and I was there today at Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans, and Cheyenne was there, and so was Ashley. I walked in to get a new bottle of Vita Dreams, the CBD product, Vita Dreams, to help you just kind of maybe relax a little bit as you get close to falling asleep, or when it's about time for you to go to bed. Have a gummy. You learn kind of how much you may need. It might be a half a gummy. It might be 2 or 3 of them. They're available, and they have bottles available. I bought a couple of them for my just to kind of get better sleep. A lot of things going on constantly that might keep you up at night. Maybe it's personal. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's ideas in your head. If you need a little bit of a just nudge to have a better, more restful night, Vita Dreams at Don Humidor. And, of course, they have a 48-foot walk-in humidor with Padron and Cohiba, Macanudo, Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, and my favorite, Rocky Patel. Rocky Patel, a great brand of cigars. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 players available in the transfer portal. Again, so far. But the college basketball transfer portal is heating up. I saw a tweet, I think it was from Jeff Goodman this morning, where he says, I wish they would just move this. Like, you could move it to April the 9th, the day after the tournament is over, just to let everybody who's in the tournament. I mean, there are teams that are playing right now that are going to have to talk to players because, you know, hey, I'm getting ready for I think NC State, maybe it was NC State, Alabama was hosting somebody today on campus before they went off to Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of silly. But number 5, 2 of these players are from Stanford. Kanan Carlisle, who was a very highly sought-after guard. Stanford's top 3 players are all in the portal, and you can see why they need a new coach. If you have these guys that are as highly regarded across all services as these guys are, and you need a new coach, then maybe you're not getting the most out of your talent. But Kanan Carlisle, going to be sought after. He's a guard. Can score, can move the ball, but it'll be really interesting to see where he winds up. And again, he's a Stanford kid, so you know that he can read and write better than most.
Sharp.
Yeah, sharp.
Yeah. They never contacted me. Go ahead,
he's definitely smart. Should be good for whatever culture you have in your program as far as having the smart side of things. And obviously dummies don't get into Stanford. I mean, you gotta be all about your business. And so, I mean, you're gonna be mostly on your own here, Paul, because college hoops is not much of my thing when it comes to the transfer portal.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Number 4, Kobe Johnson at USC. Tall guard.
And Enfield leaves.
Yeah, Enfield leaves. You're going to see a little bit more of this, obviously. SC probably has I'm sure they're going to have the wherewithal to go hire a coach quickly, but, Bronny James is there. I don't think he's going to leave, but you never know. I mean, what happens there, but he's gone. Andy Enfield's gone. He's now followed their top recruit, decommitted today at USC as well. But Kobe Johnson won, and he's just a freshman, so someone who is going to be, again, really sought after in that portal, and someone who will come into a program and probably start right away for most of the other teams in the country. Number 3, Maxime Renaud, ranked number 1 in the portal by many, many services. I put him at 3 just because...
You're just being belligerent?
Just because I want to have my own opinion and not be a copycat. But another guy from Stanford, but a 7-footer, and maybe I should have put him higher just because... as we've seen this year, 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four are old school, run through the post kind of teams with DJ Burns, Zach Edey, and Klingon all down there. So, but Maxime Renaud, very athletic, and he is going to make a lot of money in the portal because he is 7 foot tall and can shoot and do all those things. Number 2, Clifford Omayuri from Rutgers. This is one that I would keep an eye on for Baylor. Once they find out about Yves Missi, I think this is, they're probably already moving on it, but assuming that Yves Missi is going to go. And so this is one I'd look at for Baylor. It was another one I'd look at all across the country, but particularly a couple of Big 12 schools. Baylor being one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if, some of the schools like Oklahoma State or West Virginia with new coaches try to get in on that. Arizona is probably going to try to get in on this. So I don't know about Kansas, because if Hunter Dickinson comes back, you don't really have a spot for him unless you want to go full old school San Antonio Spurs with Twin Towers, which, again, I would not be opposed to seeing it anywhere in college basketball. Somebody try to do that because it was fun when the Spurs did it. But this is one to watch, and particularly if you're a Baylor fan watching our show right now, I would say if they had a dream guy in the portal right now, this would be him. And number 1, A.J. Storr from Wisconsin. 17 points a game, pure scorer, can run the point, can do a lot of things, shoots threes. He is going to have the red carpet rolled out for him wherever he goes, because this is the kind of player that wins championships now for the most part in college basketball, and it's a guard-centric game. So watch out for A.J. Storr in the transfer portal, and I would not be surprised to see his list, if he tweeted out the list of programs that contacted him, if you went in order of blue blood on down, it would probably be about 15 schools before you got to one that's not been in a Final Four. I promise you that for this kid right here, because he can ball.
A.J. Storr. The first thing I saw Storrs, I thought about UConn. Storrs, Connecticut, but obviously.
Well, look, again, that might be their pitch.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good NIL opportunity there. All right, Garrett, thank you very much. Jack McKenzie. Emory is working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. And please, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button when you can and spread the word. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time again today. This is 365 Sports.